Are you ready? Are you freaking ready? Are you ready for us to tear Not E3 2023 a new one? Because that's what we're about to do right here on GameFace. Alongside me to do that is Matt Kyle. Matt, a little bit of a false start there.
A little bit, but we're going to tear it a new one.
We apparently are going to tear it a new one.
We're going to execute E3 in the public square because it's not E3 anymore.
That's right.
It's something else.
It's something else.
And we fear what we don't understand, and we're going to kill it.
How are you guys doing? If you guys have struggled to keep up with all the Not E3 stuff, that's what this episode is for. We're going to literally go through the entirety.
Although if you struggle to keep up with the Capcom thing, you might want to see someone about that.
Exactly. Yeah, we are going to talk about Capcom, but very, very briefly. It has been an insane week. I don't even know how many hours I've worked this week. It has just been bonkers. That is the one part of this week that did make me feel like it was E3, the insane number of hours that I have worked this week. Hopefully you guys appreciate what I've been doing on the website, man. I've been busting my butt for y'all on sifted.net. Hopefully it's coming through. You guys have enjoyed our coverage of E3 or Not E3 so far. It has been an intense week. We have, the TriCaster has like 80 clips loaded up on it for today. It's going to be an insane show. As I teased last week, this is going to be probably the best episode of GameFace for all of 2023. There is just so much to get
Unless Starfield sucks and I have to talk about it. Then you will see some shit.
Yeah. Just before we really get going, just apologies in advance. If we go through some of the games that you guys are really excited about and we go through them real quick, I'm sorry. But there's just so much to get to. We can't spend too much time on one specific game. In fact, Starfield, you just mentioned, we are not going to be able to talk about Starfield the way that we should today. We're going to talk about it, but we're going to spend like 10 minutes on it. Whereas
there will be other days.
Yes,
sure.
I think next week's show we'll probably discuss Starfield for a nice little chunk because they just blew it wide open at Not E3. Typically, we have a lot of housekeeping to get to, but honestly, we don't this week because we really can't because we need to get through all of this awesome content that has been handed to us by the gaming gods this week. And we just don't have time, honestly, to go through a lot of smaller stories. We need to get straight into the heart of everything. Before we get going, though, let's check in with you guys and see what you guys are saying. It's been a nutty week, and I do realize a lot of you guys don't have time to follow E3 maybe the way you want to because you have careers and jobs and kids and stuff like that. That's what GameFace is for. That's what Sifted.net is for. Let's see. Wait a minute. Are people saying there's still audio problems?
No, they're just reacting.
Oh, okay. Not Cirque, thank you for Twitch Prime. I know a couple other you guys got in here. Commander Fett, thank you. Who else? Corey Film, thank you for Twitch Prime. I think that's all here off the top of the show. It has been an exhausting week, Matt. Hey, Andy T. Monahan, thank you for Twitch Prime as well. It has been exhausting, honestly. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I don't feel old, but I do think that if I have had to have run around the show floor for 3 days, I don't know if I'd have been able to do it by the third day because I was just tired just doing the work for this, just sitting in a computer chair and doing all the work related to Not E3 this year. But anyway,
I was tired just watching the Capcom presentation.
I think that wore a lot of people out. It was also the last one.
Yeah.
And it did not go out with a bang, Not E3 this year.
We'll get to Capcom, but
yeah.
That Capcom presentation was a nice reminder of why I don't miss E3.
That's a good point. Although Capcom's press events at real E3 used to be pretty good.
Used to be.
When they were in person and
back
stuff.
in the day.
Back in the day. Way back in the day. David Nordic, thank you for Twitch Prime as well. Talimper, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Cinetike says, been following many of the games outside Xbox and Summer Games Fest on Sifted on filter out lots of stuff. Thanks. You're welcome. Look, guys, it really means a lot if you guys give me any compliments. I never get any. Like, I have no coworkers to be like, good job, Shane. Like, you're the only source I have for positive reinforcement. And I'm killing myself for the site. So if you guys ever feel like you might want to say thanks or something nice to Shane, it would mean a lot. That's all I got to say. As I said, there's no housekeeping in today's show. We have too much to get into in the bulk of the show. But before we do that, here's a word from our awesome sponsor.
LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass. and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com. That's creamls.com.
And don't forget, people, we have a brand new URL for you guys to go to. It is creamls.com/sifted. Use that URL if you want to learn about all the awesome recipes for drinks, or you want to learn about the history of LS Cream. And I'll say this, Matt, I mixed up a couple LS Cream drinks the last 4 or 5 days. I get done with work at like 11 or midnight or whatever, and I'd go out to the kitchen, I'd mix up a drink, and then I'd sit on the couch and then try to catch up on everything that happened, because that's really the crazy part is like, all this is happening. I'm just trying to get everything as the press conference is happening. I'm going to like YouTube to their separate channels, trying to find where the trailer that they just showed has popped up. Then I'm curating. I don't get to watch all the stuff while it's happening. So after the day is over, then I sit down with a drink, LS Cream drink, and I would just go to YouTube or just go to Sifted and just start watching stuff. As it's happening, like, I just get the important information. What's the release date? Like, who's the developer? Who's the publisher? Just all the information I need to create the game page so that I can then tag that trailer to the game page and it will live there then for eternity. So I would then have to go and do homework after I worked all day to learn about all the games and all the cool stuff. And overall, Matt, I would say it's been a pretty awesome week. What say you?
Yeah, it was some good stuff. I mean, the Xbox thing was probably the highlight of such, but it felt like it felt like back when Microsoft had something to show. So
I will say this: the only moment, other than the work level, which I've been talking about, the only moment where it really felt like E3 to me was the Xbox press conference. And we're going to obviously get to that, and we'll go through all the games that they talked about. But that was the one press conference where I was overwhelmed by awesome stuff.
Well, I should say Xbox felt like good E3, and Capcom felt like bad
E3. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's like Capcom was, and not just E3. That Capcom was just, oh right, I remember being trapped in every permutation of like a Japanese press conference of like where it's just
Konami's were really legendary.
Yeah, that just that formula of like, we're gonna drag somebody out to read a scripted thing, tell you to please be excited, and run a clip of the most generic thing we could possibly imagine, and at least one of our trailers will just be an apology because it's not out yet.
Yeah,
like it hit all the buttons.
Yeah.
So
now that it's over,
if there had only been 1 million troops, it would have been better.
Now that it's over, one thing I will say is like it really is crazy how much smaller the industry is. Like, it's bigger than ever as far as the money that it's making, but as far as the number of products are concerned, it's really small. I mean, there's just indie galore. Like, the kind of indie games the last 3 days was just
a lot
like
of indie stuff, but also like there's more AAA stuff on top of each other because that's like the only thing anyone makes, because it's the thing that pays off the best if you hit. But that also means that everybody also makes fewer games overall. So it's like they're making fewer games overall, but there's more AAA stuff. And like,
I don't think that's true.
I think it is.
Well, I mean,
true.
I think the definition of AAA has changed.
Yeah, well, I mean, the things that they're trying to position as AAA. Like, Capcom, I'm sure, internally thinks Exoprimal is AAA. You and I know that it is not. Yeah. But it is positioned in their books as AAA.
I mean, they're budgeting it that way and giving it marketing. By the way, just so you know, here are my notes for today's episode. Look at this. These are my notes for today's episode. This is the work I've been doing for you people these last, week, getting ready for this. And what I will say, Matt, to my point I was making earlier, is despite this insane amount of notes, the number of games is pretty small. There's a lot of double dipping where something would appear in Jeff's thing or an Xbox thing, and then it would appear also in Ubisoft's thing. Like, it's a lot different. Is it better or is it worse? I think that's open to interpretation. It's easier to do the job now, but I would say this, whereas we used to get a lot of AA games or B-tier games, whatever the heck you want to call them, now we just get a ton of indies. And the one thing I will say, and we'll get to some indies from this week, we have a segment of the show today about the indies that caught my eye. A lot of the indies are just trash.
Yeah, well, a lot of the B-tier games are just masquerading as indies.
Yeah.
Like, they're not indies. They're funded by major publishers.
Right.
But they're positioned and designed to look like indies. You
Yeah.
know, there's a look that, you know,
Yeah.
indie can mean what it means, which is an independently funded project, or it can mean that thing that looks like a game that 5 people made. And sometimes you can tell which one is which, and there's a definite quality difference between which one is which.
Yeah, I was really disappointed in the indie games at this whole last week. Like I've looked at all of them because that's what I do when I curate, and I found like 6 that I found really interesting.
Well, and on top of all that, no Silk Song.
Right?
Where is that game?
Canceled? It's
No.
obviously not canceled, but what the heck, man? I don't know what's going on there. It's pretty bizarre. But anyway, as I said, we have a lot to get to. We can't spend too much time screwing around with our intro, and therefore, it's time to kick things off. It's time to talk about not E3 2023. We are going to go through the press conferences in chronological order. I thought about doing Xbox first, stacking things in the order of interest, but I feel like for people who maybe haven't been paying attention to what's been going on the last week, it's more fruitful for them if we go in the order that everything actually happened. It also makes sense for us as far as trying to tell a story around this, to explain, this debuted here with a trailer, and then later on it showed up here with the first gameplay. So we're going to go chronologically, which means that the first thing we're going to discuss today is Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest. Matt, what are your overall impressions of Summer Game Fest? It was 2 hours long.
It's no Game Awards.
No.
I'll be honest, after the Nicolas Cage appearance, I turned it off and just went back and watched the individual stuff later because it was too embarrassing.
Let me show you something. Maybe if I can zoom in enough here on my camera so you guys can see it well enough. Let me pop up my camera again really quickly. So here, this is, I don't know how clearly you can see it, but this point of the page and up are what we're actually going to discuss from Summer Game Fest. Here is the actual log of Summer Game Fest, meaning everything that was shown in Summer Game Fest, which means we're going to discuss about a quarter of, if that, of what was actually shown at Summer Game Fest. It was loaded with crap, Summer Games Fest. It was 2 hours long, and honestly, Matt, there are 5 games, 5 moments in that show that are really worth discussing. 5.
I mean, I think the shade Nick Cage threw at Jeff was pretty worth discussing. But
And look, I'm not really blaming Jeff because it's slim pickings. This is the problem for Jeff, is that there's never been anything like what Jeff is trying to do. No one's ever just been like, I'm going to throw my own press conference, and I need stuff from first parties and third parties to fill up my press conference. It was always just like, Ubisoft has Ubisoft games. Xbox has Xbox games, plus a couple of the big third parties. Jeff is trying to be like a platform, basically.
right, well, he's where you can go if you don't, like Warner Brothers Interactive did not do an event, so he got Mortal Kombat and stuff like, Square did not do their own thing, so he got Final Fantasy VII. Like that's where it's basically where you go if you have one thing you want to show, but you don't want to do your own showcase.
And there weren't many of those.
And for whatever reason, you're not in the Xbox showcase, and I'm sure in another reality, Final Fantasy and Mortal Kombat would have been in like the PlayStation show, but there was no PlayStation show.
Yeah, I mean, he has to take what he can get. I understand that. But here's what I'm saying. Make the show an hour.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be that long.
I mean, he's doing it to make money. Because did you notice that the crowd was clapping for commercials?
Oh, yeah.
Because they didn't realize they were commercials.
Or they're hired to be there.
Or maybe. You're right. Maybe it's the paid crowd, part of the paid crowd that was there. That show has no business being 2 hours long, and I don't think it will ever have any business being 2 hours long.
No.
There's nothing's going to change about this. These publishers are still going to do their own press conferences. Jeff is still going to have to take the leftovers of whatever's left from all those. There's never going to be enough of that to support a 2-hour show. Like, it just went on and on and on and on. But
you don't appreciate how much the little award breaks like chop it up on the Game Awards until they're gone.
Yeah. Man, and I'm working. Like, it doesn't matter to me whether a game is an indie game or a AAA blockbuster. I still have to do the same amount of work. I still have to grab a bunch of screenshots from it. I still have to create a piece of box art. I have to create the game page, and then I have to curate and publish the trailer, and then tag that trailer to that game page. It doesn't matter what the game is, and it just would not end. Like, I got to like the hour and 40 mark, and I almost gave up. I was like, this is insane. And then you go and you look at the numbers, and like, you guys aren't watching like hardly any of it. Like, we get complaints from people all the time like, oh, you don't cover indies enough on GameFace or blah, blah, blah. You guys don't care about indies. I have the data. Y'all don't watch trailers for hardly any indie games at all. Like, the very big ones that Matt and I will actually mention on GameFace, a couple of you will watch trailers for that stuff. The rest, like, literally, like, less than 100 views for those trailers on Sifted. So, that show to me, I was just like, make it stop. Please make it stop. But I'll say this. There were 5 or 6 pretty good things and a couple really good things. And the first really, really good thing was the thing that they finished with, which was the next installment in the Final Fantasy VII Remake Saga, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'll just be honest with you, Matt. I had very little clue what was going on in this trailer. Like, I didn't finish Final Fantasy VII Remake because, I'll be honest with you, I just didn't really like it that much. I think I played 15 or 20 hours of it and stopped and never went back to it. So I don't know if that's part of it, that I didn't finish the original one. Do you have more insight into this maybe than I do?
Not really. I mean, it's you know, I didn't finish that game either because why would I? But like, I mean, I assume what they're showing at the beginning there is the aftermath of the plate falling, which I remember from the original game, and then you get booted out into the world once you get out of Midgar, and that's what this all is.
Yeah, you're finally out of like the steampunk.
Yeah, and there's a bunch. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that's new in this because obviously it's a different timeline or different unfolding thing or whatever the fucking smoke monster things are or something.
Just straight out of Lost.
Like it implied that what's his name is still alive. The guy from Before Crisis or whatever.
Oh,
Clyde or whatever his name
yeah.
is. Not Clyde. That's 16.
I know who you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The guy that Cloud basically steals his identity without realizing it, kind of thing. And then they go. Yeah, I don't remember any of that, and they're changing it slightly, and I don't care. But yeah, basically, this is like disc 2. Where you get booted out in the big world and get to go around and, you meet, obviously, Red 13 and Yuffie, and I wonder if Vincent will show up at some point. There's not showing him yet. There's the new Turk girl who looks suspiciously like a blonde version of Tifa. There's people that's speculating that they're actually all dead and hallucinating this, or that this, who knows what they're doing with this. Like, they're clearly changing it up so people who know the original game backwards and forwards aren't going to get bored with hearing the same story over again.
Yeah.
There she is. But we'll see. We'll see. Well, people who play this will see. I don't know how much of it I'll see. 2 discs is a lot of this.
And that's the thing that they announced too, is coming on 2 discs. Do you think that's like a nod to the old game, or do you think they really need 2 discs?
I mean, I would guess they probably do need 2 discs if they're doing like it depends how far they're going with this, but I feel like if they're kind of emulating. If they're emulating what the original game did in terms of what disc 2 was, yeah, I could see you needing 2 discs just for the sheer amount of like audio and texture work, because that's a lot of stuff.
It is, yeah.
I'm sure it'll all install, as one file, but like I could see needing that much space to store it physically. Sure. Not referencing, obviously you're not going to reference the disc while you're playing because that's not how modern consoles work. But I could see having, that much data requiring that much space. Sure. Especially if they intend to kind of emulate it as like I feel like they're trying to make this three installments, like that would track with the number of discs the original game was too. So my guess is there's one more entry after this. And I can see like having to get all that stuff from the middle of the game in there. Yeah, that 2 discs even on a modern Blu-ray, that would be about right.
Are you excited for this, Matt?
No,
Me
not
either.
even a tiny amount. But
I feel like I'm missing out because some people are.
But you know what? At least they're getting a little bit. But at least they're getting it. I mean, it's obviously took a while, but at least they're getting it out in a timely manner for the people who do care about it.
Yeah, I'm happy for everybody else who's really excited for it. I just, the first remake just did not click with me at all. Like, I'm not like crazy fanboy for Final Fantasy VII in general. So I'm sure that has part to do with my lack of excitement for it. But again, I'm excited for y'all because some of y'all are really, really pumped about it. Like, it's their most anticipated game of all of them.
If you were 12 in 1997, it was a watershed moment, I think.
What do you think of the combat that they're showing there?
It looks about the same.
Yeah, it looks pretty much the same as the first remake game.
Yeah. I mean,
which was okay.
Yeah, people seem to like that for whatever reason. So there's no, if it ain't broke.
Yeah. That game is coming in early 2024?
Said early 2024. We'll see if they stick to that.
Yeah, we'll see if it makes it or
not.
not.
But it seems pretty likely it's next year one way or the other.
Yep, so. PS5 exclusive, as you guys probably already know. But yeah, that was a pleasant surprise. I did not, because that show had like dragged for like the last 45 minutes, and he tacked that on at the end. I was like, okay, I don't know if it saved the show, but it certainly helped. But that was a big get. That was probably his biggest get of his press conference, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'm surprised that, like, well, I guess it's PS5 exclusive. What are they going to do? Why? I'm surprised that they didn't have it in the thing in May for PlayStation.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I wonder what Jeff had to do to finagle that to make sure that
maybe he just wasn't ready yet.
That could be. Yeah. If that's the case, he got really lucky.
Or maybe they weren't sure of even a release window yet.
Yeah, that could be too.
Things can change over time.
Yeah, but that was his biggest get, easily, of Summer Games Fest for sure. Next up, Mortal Kombat 1. We had already got the first trailer for Mortal Kombat 1, and then we get like this big gameplay extravaganza, and then Jeff had it playable at his little kind of warehouse thing that he does afterwards, where people can actually go and play games. And there is just footage of this flooding the internet right now. Like, everybody recorded hours and hours of it, and everyone's doing like fatality montages and all that kind of stuff. And it's all over Sifted too. We've curated a bunch of that stuff if you want to check it out. It's live on the site. Pretty much every permutation and combination that you could of all the information and the content that was in that build is out on the wilds of the internet. Now that we've really been crazy exposed to Mortal Kombat 1, how are you feeling? How do you feel about the cameo characters? I mean, they're a bigger part of the game than I really thought they would be.
I mean, it's fine. It's just like assists in the old Capcom versus games.
Yeah.
Like, it's something they haven't done yet, like, in Mortal Kombat, so why not?
I was surprised how long the cameo characters could fight.
Yeah.
Like, I thought they'd just jump in and do like one attack and then jump out, but they actually like jump in there. And
they seem to have 4 or 5 attacks based on which direction
I was surprised by that.
So it's not a half-assed system, obviously, but we'll see. What it. I mean, Mortal Kombat. NetherRealm's games are kind of notorious for being a little wonky in the balance department at launch. So we'll see. But like, I mean, it looks like Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Like, cool.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the game itself has changed all that much.
No, it's
other than the cameo characters.
Yeah, it's still got that kind of blocky movement feel.
It's robotic.
You can see that it still works on sort of a Z and X axis with some diagonals mixed in, sort of thing. It's that I talk about how Street Fighter feels more fluid, and Mortal Kombat has always felt like it takes place inside squares somehow. And that seems to still be. I mean, it's just sort of how NetherRealm rolls. I don't expect that to change. I don't need it to change. It's what Mortal Kombat feels like. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't want them to completely overhaul Mortal Kombat. I like that it's a fighting franchise. It feels different from other fighting franchises.
Yeah, it has its own identity. NetherRealms has a house style. It's fine. It looks better because they've upgraded to Unreal 4, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, graphics look great.
Yeah. Their character model work is greatly improved. Their animation is greatly improved. They improve every game.
Yeah.
You go back to like Mortal Kombat 9, and that stuff's rough.
Yeah, you're right. The fatalities in this shocked me. Like, I gotta hand it to NetherRealm, man. Somehow every entry, there's at least a couple fatalities where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, it's pretty crazy that they managed to keep coming up with demented new ways to kill human beings. Like,
yeah, I mean, they're pretty cool. Like, I mean, I feel like these guys probably watch Terrifier 2 a lot.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Terrifier 3.
Have you watched that movie yet?
No. Yeah, I've seen clips of it, but like, I appreciate the artistry there.
Uh-huh.
Terrifier 3 is coming.
Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised because it's like a building franchise at this point. I don't think they'll ever be in the theaters though. But
I mean, I'm sure certain theaters.
Right. Yeah, the ones that
I don't know if I want to go see that with other people who want to see that.
The ones with sticky seats. Yeah.
Like places like you would have found like Quentin Tarantino in like 1987.
Yeah. Swanland is asking if we're excited for Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I mean, I don't really care about that. But like, it's nice that they finally got it. I mean, they wanted him to play Johnny Cage in the first game,
right?
Like, but they couldn't afford him, and so the fact that they finally got Ed Boon got this long-term dream realized is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, overall, I was pretty impressed with what I saw of MK1 throughout the week.
It all looks fun. Like
that fatality right there bothers me the most for some reason.
Well, it's classic.
Is that freezing the head and pulling the spine out? But the way that they do it is different in this one. Like, I don't think they ever grabbed the neck and froze the head before they ripped it off. I think he just grabbed it and ripped it.
He has done that in the past.
Oh, really?
Although it obviously wasn't animated that well. And sometimes I remember one where he freezes the neck and then pulls it out like kind of sideways. Yeah. Because it pulls out like a frozen body and it's all sort of iced up. That's I mean, again, I do think they have a lot of anatomy textbooks laying around.
They absolutely do. Yeah.
It's clearly done with love.
Yeah. And by the way, Mortal Kombat, if you don't know or don't remember, it is coming out on September 19th. So not long to wait for that game. I mean, it's literally just a few months away here. But looking really good. I was impressed with it. And just not that trailer. Again, if you really want to see more of it, there's tons of gameplay, montages, lists, all kinds of content for Mortal Kombat 1 on Sifted right now. Next up, Alan Wake 2. We get to see the first gameplay from Alan Wake 2. And it's not of Alan Wake. It's the other protagonist.
The other character. Well, actually, is what's his name? David Harbour. He's not Alan Wake.
Is he not gonna? Do you not play Alan Wake?
I don't think you play as Alan Wake in this game.
Really?
I think you play as those two FBI people.
Really?
Because you see him, right? Like where he's like at the typewriter. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like that.
Yeah.
I think he's just part of the story.
Really?
I don't think you're playing as him.
Interesting. I didn't realize that. People are saying it's like True Detective crossed with Resident Evil.
I can see that comparison.
The detective stuff seems pretty heavy in this. Now, this gameplay doesn't really show that stuff off, but afterwards they were doing interviews.
Guapo says you play as Alan Wake and Saga. So that this is or Sage, I think is her name.
Yeah. So a lot of people are saying that the detective stuff in this.
Alone in the Dark is Harbor. That's right. I'm mixing up my horror games I don't fucking care about.
You don't care about Alan Wake at all?
No, not really.
Even though this game isn't really just a straight up like horror shooter.
No,
the detective stuff doesn't interest you.
You show me this, and I don't care.
Yeah,
I mean, it looks nice. It's very pretty, but it just looks like every fucking horror game to me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, I don't care. And this the other thing the only real takeaway I have from this is that's a cool. The deer running through the thing is cool. Like it looks nice. I absolutely know I'm not going to care about playing this game for 1 second. The other thing
I will
is they need to move this game.
Yo,
it is going to get. Buried.
I mean, that's the other thing
absolutely fucking buried.
That's the thing that we learned this week is that October is off the
you gotta
chain.
I know it's Halloween. I know that you gotta get this game out of here. You gotta put this thing in Q1 or something.
I mean, even November gives it a chance.
It's sandwiched between what is it?
Like 10 huge games.
Yeah, but specifically, it's between. Spider-Man the week after, and the week before is like some other huge and Call of Duty's in there somewhere. It's just gonna get complete. It's a game that nobody's gonna like. I think it's a game that's not gonna be well received. I can't remember what it is, but it's gonna get drown out.
October is insane.
Assassin's Creed Mirage. That's what Guapo got.
I mean, there's literally like 10 big games in October, big ones.
Yeah, you're never gonna make any. And then people's like, oh, it's a different audience. Like they're not hoping for a different niche audience. They want this game to be a hit.
Well, there's also five big horror games launching in October. Like October is when they launch horror games for Halloween.
Yeah, I very strongly believe that for the good of this game, you got to get it out of that release window.
That's not gonna happen, but
probably not. But like. It's just gonna, the thing's gonna get buried and no one's gonna notice, and you're never gonna get an Alan Wake 3.
Sneaky says Forza, Spidey, and Alan Wake all in the same week.
Yep, it's ridiculous.
That's 1 week.
And guess how many people are gonna pick this over those?
No,
Very few.
Hardly any. Yeah, I mean you're right. Like it should be moved to November or even December. Now December it gets dicey because then you can't be considered for the Game Awards at a certain time. So I know some publishers want to stay away from December if they can.
If you're making release date decisions based on the Game Awards, you're already lost at that point.
That's a good point,
come on.
actually.
Nobody's going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little underwhelmed by this first gameplay of Alan Wake. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't really striking to me. It didn't really stand out. I agree with you. It looked kind of like generic survival horror game a little bit in that clip. But all the interviews and the information that's come out since, again, makes it sound like there's a lot more to the detective stuff in it than there is sort of the combat. It almost sounds like a split like 50-50 between the two. So that should maybe give it at least a little bit of a different angle from some of the other horror shooters.
But you'll never know that just looking at it.
Yeah,
it looks
especially
like
that demo in particular.
Yeah, it looks like
they show that one scene of like looking in the freezer, and like that's pretty much all they give you there. So again, Alan Wake is coming out on October 17th. It's going to be an awesome month for video game releases. Next up, probably the biggest announcement, I would say, from Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest presentation, and that is the release date for Marvel's Spider-Man 2. It is coming out October 20th. Again, 3 days after Alan Wake. Probably I would say the biggest announcement, other than maybe finding out that Rebirth is coming early next year.
I mean, Rebirth is probably the most impactful trailer, because obviously there was no new Spidey footage or anything.
Yeah.
But no, we knew they said fall, but having an actual date this early, and I know the guy. I stopped watching live, but I saw the clip where the guy's like, we're very sure of what we're about to tell you.
Brian Intihar.
Yeah.
So Brian, you guys may not know, used to be a games journalist. He worked at EGM. I think he worked at one other publication before he got hired at Insomniac. So he comes from our ilk, and he's done an amazing job over there. And one thing I didn't know, and maybe you do or don't, Pactor, on today's episode that went live this morning, shot yesterday, by the way, episode already live this morning, just putting it out there, he mentions that Ted Price lives in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. I did not know that. Did you?
I did, but I don't know why I knew that.
The last time I saw him at Pactor's party, that's now been 4 years now, which is insane to think about. But he was talking about his house in L.A.
Yeah, I think he moved during the pandemic.
He must have. I was surprised. But Pac brought up something. And it was in response to why E3 matters, even though the industry is still doing well. And what he said is, like, if you have a normal E3, Ted Price comes. Because this is not E3, he stayed in Tennessee, and Brian Intihar is on stage instead of Ted Price. So, he was answering questions of like, well, does E3 matter if the industry's doing better than ever now? And that was kind of one of his responses to it. Another response that he had
I will argue that like the amount of money it would cost to put on E3 and also to fly Ted Price to LA, is that going to pay off in terms of extra sales for Spidey in the end? No, it's not going to affect anything.
Well, the other angle that he had on that was that gaming stocks are in the toilet. And that E3, almost every year after E3, gaming stocks shoot up. And they haven't had anything. Like, they haven't had a bump like that in 4 years. And so, like, stocks that were at, like EA stock was at 175 4 years ago. Now it's at, like, 120. And all the stocks are like that. They just slowly shrunk because the investors are the ones who watch E3. They don't watch the showcases and the directs and all that. They watch E3. And so they need to get excited to invest. If there's no E3 with the big, spectacle of it all, they don't know what's going on. They don't get excited. They don't invest. So anyway, go watch that episode of Pactor Factory. He provides a bunch of different angles on it that I had never thought about anyway. But probably the biggest announcement of Summer Game Fest.
Well, and if you're not a shareholder, none of that should really matter to you. But
yeah, but the money from the shareholders is what puts the money in the coffer to make more games and on and on.
They seem to be doing all right.
But see, that's we're not going to get into that. Anyway, watch Pactor Factor. He has some different answers for that stuff. But anyway, this is probably the biggest announcement. It is coming out on October 20th. Next up, Prince of Persia. 2.5D Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, a reboot of the franchise, although it really is just going back to what Prince of Persia was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can call anything that Prince of Persia does a reboot. They just sort of, the Prince of Persia thing changes every time they put a new one. How many times have they completely reinvented this series? There is no real content. It's just like guy from Persia rescues girl from bad guy.
Jumps around and hacks stuff with his sword, yeah.
Would you ever know that this is the same, franchise as that first one or Sands of Time or that 2008 one where you're just picking up glowy puffballs the whole time? Prince of Persia is very loose in continuity. It's not I think everybody of a certain age probably thinks of Sands of Time as the core of the franchise in the sense of that one dude who smoldered with generic rage for several years over 3 installments. But the hostility towards this game is astounding to me because it looks pretty fucking good for what it is.
Too.
It looks like a really cool reinvention of Prince of Persia, like classic style. But if you're waiting for Sands of Time remake, I guess it's disappointing, but
I think a lot of people see side scroller and the first thing they think of is indie. And I understand that because a lot of indie games are side scrolling games, but this game goes beyond that. Like you can tell that this was made with a big budget.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't just like, we put 10 guys on the new Prince of Persia game.
This is the team that did Rayman Legends and Rayman Origins,
which are
two of the best 2.5D things ever. Yep. So I'm okay. Looking forward to this one.
I'll be honest with you, Matt. I mean, Sands of Time was really groundbreaking and really good. I thought 3D Prince of Persia fell off the map. Like, I'm okay with 2D Prince of Persia.
Yeah,
but this is what, to me, and probably you as well, this is what I associated with Prince of Persia for most of my life.
Right, this is OG Prince of Persia.
Yeah, this is what I first played when I played Prince of Persia. So to me, it's not such a huge departure. I can understand why people who are maybe 10, 15 years younger than us, this isn't Prince of Persia to them.
Yeah.
They think that Ubisoft is like cheaping out and doing like a 2D, like indieized version of Prince of Persia, which is nonsense. That's not what's happening
This
here.
Isn't like that thing where they did like the weird spin-offs of Assassin's Creed as 2D things.
Right.
This they put a lot. I mean, they put the A-lister team on this in terms of what this game is.
Yeah.
Like Rayman Origins is amazing. I'm sure this will be no different.
I think it looks great.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this game. It comes out on January 18th, so they couldn't quite make it into the year, but they're going to make it in through before the end of the fiscal year. And this is coming to all platforms. And we'll talk about this again briefly in a little bit because Ubisoft in its press conference then also shows this game off. But we'll get to that in a minute. Next up, Sonic Superstars. Here's another kind of similar game, Matt.
Yeah, a similar idea.
Polygonal graphics, like
but nobody's
3D.
Forgotten where Sonic comes from.
Right,
so
right.
It's received better.
Right. 3D. So this is received better. You're absolutely right. 3D graphics played on a 2D plane. This should have happened a long time ago, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like there's a little bit of this idea with like what Sonic 4 was trying to do, but didn't quite click.
Yeah, and also
there was an element of this to Sonic Generations as well.
That's true. The original designer of Sonic, his new studio, is making this game. Mm-hmm. The OG.
Well, we know it's not Yuji Naka.
That's for sure. Maybe, I don't know. You can do a lot from prison these days. I think they have like computer monitors.
Yeah, maybe we get a we could get a central yard zone or something.
Going back to
solitary confinement zone. We got a whole prison Sonic version.
Going back to Prince of Persia, the Big Smoke 82 asked, "Do you not think it looks like Metroid Dread?" Yeah, a little bit, but without the annoying parts of Metroid Dread, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't really use Metroid Dread as a scale for anything except disappointment.
Yeah, and also another thing that they're doing with this game, they're not going to include the green zone in this. Do you think is that sacrilege? It kind of is.
I mean, it's a break from tradition, but at the same time, I mean, this kind of looks like it.
Yeah.
How many times do you need a green zone to start with? Like we know
every time, Matt.
We know.
Also, every time.
Every musical theme for every green zone after the original has been a disappointment anyway. So just get to the meat. Just go.
I always feel like green zone is the benchmark. Like it's the thing that's the same in every Sonic game, so you can always compare like the graphics.
Well, it's
and
the warm up. It's the departure from normalcy. It's like
Yeah.
kind of like this is where Sonic usually lives, and now he's got to leave home and go into the wilds or into the city, and this the cities that I guess people never really considered who lives there, because when humans showed up in Sonic Adventure, everyone's like, what the hell? I'm like, who did you think lived in all these fucking metropolises he's running around in? Like, was it just like hedgehogs? Like, I don't...
Swanland says the co-dev of Sonic has a terrible track record, unfortunately. I mean, I think he's been gone for like forever. Like, I don't think he's been doing much. But he's
been periodically involved with stuff, but nobody involved with Sonic has a great track record.
Yeah, I mean, his current studio has not exactly built a ton of hits. So.
I will say this game looks a little slow.
Yeah, the speed isn't quite there. You're right.
I don't think it's moving as fast as maybe people might prefer.
Maybe for older people like me, it might be good.
Yeah, I don't know.
I still don't think my reflexes have deteriorated all that much, luckily. I'm definitely not the way I was when I was 20, but I can still hang in Call of Duty.
Judging by my success online with Street Fighter, I'm still doing all right.
Yeah.
It's really more my patience
to
deal with level design that has decreased.
I'd agree with that. I definitely agree with that. So anyway, that's Sonic Superstars. That is coming fall of this year, and it's coming to pretty much every platform, but it's coming out before the end of the year, so that's pretty big surprise that they're showing it now and it's coming out soon. That's kind of a recurring theme, actually, throughout this week. It's been a lot of the games that they're showing are actually coming in the next 6 to 8 months, which is, I think, a good reprieve from the old E3 where you get a trailer and the game wouldn't come out for like 5 years or something like that. So good to see that at least these have tenuous release dates and that there's a chance of them hitting those dates in the near future. And then from here, those are the big games from Summer Games Fest. That's pretty much it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's it. In 2 hours.
I'm trying to think of what else I saw on there.
Oh, we've got more. There's more we're going to talk about. But I'm just saying, this is the cutoff where the big stuff ends for Summer Games Fest. Next, we're going to talk about a game from John Carpenter. John Carpenter's Toxic Commando, which is basically just another Left 4 Dead clone. Mm-hmm. Do we need more of these?
Nope.
I mean, we've got like 4 or 5 franchises like this at this point. There's World War Z, there's Left 4 Dead, there's Back 4 Blood. There's this.
I didn't even register this.
Well, it registered for me because John Carpenter. I'm a huge fan.
I am not. So
Really?
I think The Thing is one of the greatest horror movies ever made, and that's probably about where my use for John Carpenter ends.
I mean,
respect for Halloween for basically creating the slasher genre as we know it, but like I don't think he's a particularly good filmmaker overall. I have not been able to sit through Escape from New York or Big Trouble in Little China in this century. I did see Escape from LA at a birthday party like a year or so ago, and that movie sucks. I don't like his music I like his music individually as music. I do not like it as soundtracks to his movies. I think Escape from New York's like synth
what about
soundtrack
Halloween?
is incredibly weak. I don't think Halloween is all that great either.
The music, I mean.
No.
You don't like Halloween's music?
I like the theme song, but I do not like that kind of just music from the Hearts of Space synth bullshit that goes. It just doesn't.
It's just one dirge after another.
It's just nonsense to me. So yeah, John Carpenter, not a big draw for me. Respect to the man for what he's accomplished, but it's not for me.
There's a lot of zombies right there.
I think the fact that Kojima seems to aspire to be John Carpenter as his like high bar of film work is hilarious.
That is pretty funny, actually.
And the fact that he can't even get to that is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. I mean, and also like John Carpenter is just here as sort of a spokesperson.
T. Monahan says already looks better than Redfall. Fair.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Sure.
Follow Nick says it gives me State of Decay vibes. Okay. I mean, it's a cooperative zombie shooter where there's millions of zombies. I mean, that's Left 4 Dead, that's World War Z, but maybe there's a tinge of some other stuff in there. I'm not particularly excited for this. I'm not saying I am. I'm just saying this is the level of stuff that was in this 2-hour show. And we've talked about it for like 20 minutes, and this is where we're at already.
I gotta say, at this point, one thing I did learn over the course of all these presentations is the instant you start showing me some kind of one of these game as a service things, I am out the door.
You zone out.
Yeah, I don't. None of this stuff looks. It all looks the same. You can see the strings and the formula every single time. Just apparently we're gonna.
Which means about half
we're
of
gonna chew my hair now.
Look at Luna.
This is just. Hello.
He's really friendly today. Which means about half of the games that you've seen over the last week have not interested you, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of games as a service.
There were a lot of breaks to make a sandwich, let me tell you that.
Absolutely. And now we're getting into the really small stuff. Like next up, Lies of P, which there's a demo out now, which I'm going to play here in the next day or two, and we'll talk about it on next week's show.
I downloaded the demos for this in Final Fantasy 16, but I have not gotten around to playing them.
We'll talk about both of those games on next week's episode, and then the week after that, we'll probably be reviewing Final Fantasy 16. The cool thing about the Final Fantasy 16 demo, by the way, is that your save does carry over to the final game.
Yes.
Which is nice.
Which is why I downloaded it all.
Yeah. So. The Lies of P demo, a lot of people are comparing it to Bloodborne.
Yeah, I mean, I see that comparison.
Yeah. Sure. It seems like everything I saw on social media about it was like, Bloodborne, Bloodborne, Bloodborne.
I mean, it always looked like it was taking aesthetic cues from it, but even the trailer here, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, you're just doing Bloodborne 2.
Yeah,
basically.
with Pinocchio.
It's
so weird that they chose that IP, I think, but whatever.
I mean, this is not super far off the original book.
Yeah.
The original, what's his cult?
Pretty dark.
What's his? I can't remember the Italian guy's name who wrote it, but like, yeah, I remember. I loved Pinocchio when I was a kid, the Disney movie. Mm-hmm. So my aunt, who was into the
Jiminy Cricket was
the
my
classic
favorite.
books and the great books kind of thing. She gave me for Christmas like a really nice hardcover like illustrated version of the original story. And you read that thing and it's just like, oh my god, there's a horror story.
Yeah.
Like he's a monster. Like he just is kicking people and like he's horrible. It's all horrible. And so like this is very on brand for the original story.
But again, there's a demo out there if you want to give it a go. It comes out pretty soon as well, so not much longer to wait for the final game.
Did they give an actual day?
Yes, this is actually the release date trailer, and I did not write it down. I have every other freaking release date but this one.
It's about to happen because I remember that shark
I cut it off.
Oh, you cut it off?
Yeah, I always edit out the garbage at the end of trailers for B-roll, unfortunately. But that was actually the release date trailer. If looking at my notes, it's the only game I don't have the release date for. And it's the only one you're probably going to ask about the release date
There we are.
What is it? Oh,
I said there we are in the sense of like, that's the one thing I'm going to ask about.
It's funny. But it is coming pretty soon. It's coming before the end of the year. Next up, Like a Dragon Gaiden.
The man who erased his name.
Yeah. And this is So, Like a Dragon, you may know or may not know, has kind of spun off the Yakuza franchise into this like turn-based RPG franchise. But this one still uses the Like a Dragon name, but it's a traditional hack and slash.
Yakuza is just called Like a Dragon now.
Yeah.
Because that was the original Japanese name anyway, so they just changed it. That's the franchise name now.
Right. But that change also coincided with them shifting to the turn-based RPG.
Yeah, but like anything else that they're is gonna be that.
Always gonna have that name now.
Yeah.
And this is
like the other Like a Dragon they showed is just literally Yakuza 9, basically.
Or is it 8?
Is it not 7? Yeah,
I think it's 8.
Is it 8 now?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, because 6 was the end of Kiryu.
Yeah.
And then 7 was the turn-based one, which became Like a Dragon. So this a new one will be 8. But this is the side story that is not numbered, but it's about Kiryu, apparently as a superhero.
Yeah, because he can pick up soda machines and swing them around.
He's a little stronger in this than he used to be. And there's a little more solid Snake happening. Like this is basically like he's in a Marvel movie.
It's really weird.
And he
these games are always strange.
Seems to have psychic telekinesis.
It looks like it. I don't even know.
I mean, I'm in. I don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, you give me this character, I'm in. I don't care.
This game is coming out on November 9th.
Yeah.
So not long to wait for it.
The fact that they can churn these things out as fast as they do.
It's amazing.
And they're all pretty good.
Yeah. They're not bad.
Yeah.
Like any of them.
I know there's a formula to it.
But
so it's not like they got to really reinvent the wheel every time. But like.
That's still a lot of work.
It's still good.
Because the games are big, too.
They're huge.
Yeah.
I never finish any of the, like, in terms of all the side shit. Like, I'm lucky if I get through the main story.
Yeah.
But, like...
it's impressive what that studio manages to...
Yeah, and they already put out the Ishin this year.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. And as we said, there's another one that was at E3 week that we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Like, these are basically B-list games, right?
Yeah.
Like, these are...
The B-tier.
It's a brilliant way of doing it.
Yeah.
Like, they deliver every fucking time.
I don't know how.
They're never Game of the Year candidates, but they're always worth playing.
Yeah. And they never disappoint fans, which is probably what's most important. Next up, probably the biggest moment from Summer Games Fest, and that is Nicolas Cage in Dead by Daylight. Nicolas came on stage. Jeff was very excited to bring Nicolas Cage on stage.
Yes.
He yelled it at the top of his lungs.
Yes.
Nicolas Cage!
And Nicolas Cage was very unimpressed by Jeff Keighley.
The interactions were a little odd.
Very awkward.
Yeah.
My favorite was as he leaves and the Jeff goes to shake his hand again and Nick's like, oh, sure, yeah, put her there, pal.
Yeah.
I'm like, Nick Cage has been doing this longer than most of us have been alive, and he knows what he's there for.
I think Nicolas Cage was courtesy of Keighley's dad.
Yeah, most likely.
My guess is that Keighley's dad.
Now, to be fair, Nicolas Cage, once the awkward intro and outro are discounted, he was fine. He knew his stuff. Like he was there. He was engaged. He was excited. Yeah, I believe that he was excited to do this, and he thought it was an interesting little adventure and everything he said. He knew all the stuff. He didn't need to be prompted on things. Like he was just ready to talk.
I'm surprised he wasn't pissed off at how terrible this trailer is.
I mean,
it's so bad.
I'm sure he's seen what the game looks like.
I mean, just look at that first shot. It just zap. Just look at that. And then it cuts. It gets to him, and then it cuts. What is going on there?
I mean, you can only do so much with this game.
Imagine if you're the team that works on Dead by Daylight, though, and you're like, oh my god, we have this huge spot with Nicolas Cage at Summer Games Fest, and this is what you do?
I mean, you don't think that they made this? They made this. You don't think that?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I mean, it's their game.
Right, and my point is they did a god-awful job. Like, how could you send this to Jeff, this terrible trailer?
I don't know, man. You go play Dead by Daylight and see what they have to work with. That's really my answer here.
He is an odd addition to this game.
Yeah, he was... I mean, it's fun. It's fine.
He was just in that vampire movie that bombed, right?
Renfield?
Yeah, that's probably why he's...
pretty good. No, he's been in a bunch of horror stuff.
Really?
He's a horror fixture at this point, yeah.
What's other big horror movies?
Color Out of Space, Mandy, like there's a bunch of...
I don't know any of those.
Color Out of Space and Mandy are great.
Really?
Yeah, he's been in a bunch of good horror stuff.
I've never seen a single good horror movie with him.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how I missed that. Interesting.
Go check out Nick's horror stuff. He's been in some good shit.
Wow, I like him generally. Like I love a lot of his films. I've just never seen him in good horror stuff.
And it's fun. I cannot imagine you wouldn't like Mandy.
Yeah.
But also like I mean the fact that he plays himself as showing up for a movie and then being stuck like that's very him. Mm-hmm. It also ties into his unbearable weight of limitless talent or whatever that thing he did. It was sort of a pseudo biopic thing of himself.
That's right. He's a strange guy.
Yeah, it's
very quirky.
Very funny.
Yeah. But anyway, he's coming to Dead by Daylight. That's probably the biggest moment, at least for the crowd. Like, the crowd really freaked out.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people...
It's cool to see him there. The one thing that I will say I was surprised by was that he... Nicolas Cage somehow, while well-dressed, was not the best-dressed guest on Summer Games Fest. The best-dressed man on that stage was Sam Lake.
Yeah, he was.
In his tailored velour suit.
Yeah, he's looking pretty
sharp,
yeah.
man. And I'm always a little weirded out when he doesn't sound like Max Payne.
Yeah.
But, I was like, damn, that dude showed up. I was impressed by Sam Lake's outfit.
What always trips me up is, if you live in L.A., you just kind of get over celebrities. I remember the first week that we moved here from San Francisco, I was walking to lunch at G4 with 15 people, and we're standing in the corner waiting for the light to change to walk across, and up comes an Escalade and stops in front of us, and Robert De Niro is sitting in the passenger seat, and he's just right there. And I was like, holy crap. And then just over time, you just see celebrities all the time. They're not a big deal. But then I watch stuff like this, and you see people who don't normally see celebrities when they realize they're in the same room with the celebrity, and they lose their minds.
Yeah,
it's really
it's
crazy.
Very fun. Well, I mean, my Nicolas Cage encounter was at the Magic Castle. We were in the close-up gallery, which is a tiny, tiny theater where they do magic. It's about 28 seats, very small. And it was halfway through the show, and the guy uncovered a coin matrix thing with a card. And from down the row, 5 seats to my left, I just hear, "It was under there the whole time." And I'm like, what? Who the fuck is it? And I look over, and it's Nicolas Cage. And he's like, "Oh, sorry." He was just so excited.
Yeah.
He loves magic, and he was so excited. And every time he'd do a trick, he'd be like, "Oh." And it was the most adorable thing, really. And my other great thing was when at one point his date was done with her white wine, so he just took it, poured it in his red wine, and kept drinking. And I'm just like, not let it go to waste. There you go. That's a way to make a rosé. Why not?
That's funny.
But I texted my friend who worked at the Magic Castle at the time, and I'm just like, dude, Nicolas Cage was just yelling stuff in the thing. He's like, oh man, we've had to tell him to. He's like, but no one wants to kick him out or anything because he loves it so much.
Yeah.
He loves it. That was my Nicolas Cage encounter, and he was. It was just. It wasn't a problem. It was just oh, look how excited he is. He was just drunk enough that he was like a kid, reacting to all this stuff. So, and I see a little bit of that spark when he's doing his little speech here about the game, because you can tell he is actually excited about it. He's like, it's a new thing he's never done it.
He's like, I'm talking to my younger relatives who are saying this is a big deal.
And you wonder if was that conversation I'd care about you if you were in Fortnite, Uncle Nick? And he's like, well, I'll go try to get in Fortnite, but this is where I got to start.
And he probably will end up
you got to start somewhere, right? So.
So anyway, moving on. Next, there was a Twisted Metal TV show trailer, or actually just a clip from the show. And oh lordy, Matt. Oh lordy, does that show look bad?
The Twisted Metal thing?
Oh
my God.
Because we'll get a copyright flag, but...
That is unironically one of the worst things I have ever seen.
I mean, it looked like literally some of the stuff we shot for X-Play.
Yeah. It was awful. Awful.
Literally, the costuming and everything, just X-Play level.
It's like Anthony Mackie, time to get a new agent.
Yeah.
Kind of bad. And it was somebody it was almost like someone just showed Will Arnett the script and wouldn't let him know any context. Just read the lines and we're done.
It
one take,
so
go.
Bad.
And it's it says something that your first clip even involves Anthony Mackie saying, "Can we take this back to the cars?"
Yeah.
I'm I would like to see what the fucking cars are about. Isn't that what this is?
Why did they show this very narrative heavy scene? It's
embarrassing.
It was
scene.
so bad.
Just awful.
Whoever's running that show needs to be fired.
Very, very poor choices. I always knew a Twisted Metal series was a bad idea.
Yeah.
But oh my God, I was not ready.
They have pulled the rabbit out of the hat a couple times on some of this IP. Where I'm how the hell will they ever make it decent? And it's maybe not good, but it's not embarrassing. That was embarrassing.
Oh yeah.
The Twisted Metal clip was embarrassing.
Unbelievable.
And then the final thing worth mentioning from Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest presentation is new Fortnite stuff, which actually is a pretty big get. I don't know. You would think maybe Xbox might want to run this, but actually looking at the rundown from Xbox, no, it had no chance in hell of making it. But Keighley showed off a bunch of new stuff, Transformers.
And Keighley's got a good relationship with Epic. So.
Yeah, we do too, because we worked with a lot of people who work in the media department there. They Transformers, and does this make you play Fortnite now?
No, come on.
I was kidding. Yeah. And then this is it. That's 2 hours of Keely's thing.
Well, I also like the Space Marine thing, or was that in the...
Oh, the co-op.
Yeah.
That was like a 30-second clip.
Yeah. It was like...
But it did look good.
It was nice to see it.
Yeah, that game looks good, actually.
It does. It really does.
But that's probably that was on the fringe of being mentioned for us today, and that's pretty much
I mean, what is there to say other than what you just said?
right, and that's why it wasn't in the show.
Just like, oh, co-op, cool, 3-player co-op. Looks nice.
Graphics look good.
Have a release
Next.
date? No? All right.
Yeah.
I don't think that's coming this year.
I do.
You do?
Yeah. I think they announced a release date.
Did they?
Yeah, it's for like August or something.
Was it? I don't remember that.
I thought for sure. I think it's coming. I think it's going to make it. Because I've been keeping an eye on it, obviously. Because that's probably what's going to determine who wins our fantasy.
Yeah,
league.
like if that makes it or not is basically whether my my fantasy team
Has
lives
a
or
chance.
dies.
Yeah. So I've been keeping an eye.
If there was I don't remember.
Coming.
I didn't think there was a release date on that.
I thought they just said fall or whatever.
I don't remember any information on that.
I mean, the fact that they're showing a co-op trailer, pretty good sign.
Yeah.
They're showing a co-op trailer in June. Like, I think you're...
Yeah, I hope so.
Yep.
Did they show... And then they did... They did a little Baldur's Gate thing.
Yeah, they're going back to Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
Where they actually showed Baldur's Gate. Which apparently they said that they hadn't been back to in like 20 years or something.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate, I don't think that's not even in the early access because it's part of Act 2. Like, basically, I think the early access is like the first act and it ends as you get to Baldur's Gate. So I think that's the first time we've seen what it looks like in the game.
Yeah. But you can see why I didn't include that in our discussion. That's pretty low-hanging fruit. So
yeah.
What we just talked about, that was the big stuff, mostly big stuff from Summer Games Fest. What kind of a letter grade are you giving Keely's show?
I'm going to give it like a D. Was not.
Yeah. If he had cut it down to an hour and plucked the best indies and the big stuff that he had, it would have been much better.
Yeah, I think if you just watched the trailers of the games you mentioned there, you did better.
Yeah. Oh, you did. If you just went to Sifted, and because it's
2 hours
again,
of crap.
A minute after any of these trailers showed in any of these press conferences, they were there on Sifted for you to watch a la carte if you wanted to. And you're right. I think a lot of people may have done better to just use Sifted instead of watching these things because there's just a lot of crap, a lot of filler in these. I agree with you. I give it a D. Again, if he had plucked the very best indies that he had, all the big stuff, crunched it down into an hour, probably would have got a C+ or a B-.
And I know it's there to make to pay for the time, for the show, but it's just like sitting through all these games as service commercials. Wayfinders crap is like it's just interminable. Well,
the next question becomes: does he need to do it in a big? Look, it was cool to have like a crowd there for an E3 thing again, but does he need that big theater, or could he do what Nintendo did for a long time, where it was like 300 people in its press conference every year?
I mean, he's just trying to recreate a format that is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's trying to recreate the old live in the studio in the thing.
Nobody playing games live, though.
No, we're
no
not doing
gameplay
that.
demos.
No
He dodged that bullet. Yeah.
No one wants to do that.
Yeah.
But meh.
Yeah. Eric Carmena says B-. Wow. Go watch it again, Eric. That's all I got to say. I thought it was torture sitting through that thing. I thought it was D. I even thought maybe D-. I thought D might be a little generous, but there's an opportunity.
If you just done it like Xbox style and just run everything back to back without stage sequences, I might give it more like a C-.
That got a little awkward too, though, and that's a great way to transition into our next topic, which is the Xbox Showcase, which happened on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. This was your traditional direct style pre-produced video, and Matt, I did get sick of the done
world premiere
done, and it just went on and on and on and on.
I mean, it got funny at one point.
It became like almost absurd.
Yeah.
Done, and even if they didn't have the world premiere, it would still go done.
Yeah. It's very Christopher Nolan.
They just snapped it together. Like there was like a human at the beginning and a human at the end, and in between it was like it was made by AI.
But it's also like that's what Sony did the year they did their big comeback.
Yeah,
remember where like it was they had all those years of nonsense, and then they did that one year. It was like 2008, I think, and it was just like Trenton came on, introduced it. They did like 90 minutes of footage, and that was it.
Which is fine. You can come up with different transitions. You don't have to use the same one every time for an entire press
even
conference.
Ubisoft does that.
Yeah, I mean, just come up with different, just visual and with audio transitions. Like it was the same thing between every video.
Yeah, it was very corporate.
It was, yeah. Again, it felt like it was made by AI instead of made by human beings, and maybe it was. Who knows? Maybe Azure or something.
No, I don't think we need AI to explain lack of creativity at Microsoft. Come on.
It's just organic. But let me tell you, that aside, Xbox brought the goods. As I said earlier in the show, curating and doing all of that stuff for Xbox was the one moment where I felt like I was in an old school E3. And what I was getting at, and I never did get there because we got sidetracked, was that it was the one time during this week where I'm doing work and I'm like, no, I want to watch that. Like, it was hard. I'm like, nope, but I got to create this game page and I got to curate this trailer and I can't watch this thing that I really want to watch. And like, it was the only time this week where I felt that way. And it pretty much lasted the whole way through. Like, there really weren't dips in this at all.
No.
Like, it's pretty much just wall to wall stuff that I care about, which is amazing.
Yeah, it never happens anymore.
Yep. So while we said we're going through the press events chronologically, we're not going through the actual events chronologically. As you saw with Keeley's, we talked about Resident Evil. We talked about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth first, which was the last thing that was shown. We're going to do the same thing here with Xbox. We're going to talk about the big stuff and then trickle it down to the smaller stuff. And there was nothing bigger in this presentation than Starfield. And again, Matt, I don't want to spend a ton of time talking, because we could literally spend like 2 hours talking about this game. Easily. Mm-hmm. I want to spend like 5 or 10 minutes on it. They showed this trailer, which is a story trailer, which laid out the plot of the game. And then afterwards, they showed off 45 minutes of this game. Another anecdote that's come out here over the last couple days is that and I don't know if I believe this or not. I'm interested to hear if you believe it or not. Phil Spencer said that every QA employee that Xbox has is working on this game. Every single one of them.
I believe that.
They've also said that they believe that when it launches, it will be the least buggy release in the history of Bethesda.
Well, there's a high bar.
Yeah, you're right. That's a low bar to clear, let's be honest.
Meaning it'll work?
Meaning it'll actually run this time?
Yeah, look, I appreciate what they're saying there, but and clearly, they're aware, they know, Bethesda knows their reputation, they know that situation. I'm sure it will be.
I'm not sure.
I'm sure it will be, but again, Skyrim didn't work on PS3 when it came out, so what are you really saying there?
I know. Matt, I watched the 45-minute thing of this game, and it blew my mind. Because I watched that, I am not confident at all that this game is going to be bug-free. There is so much crap.
Oh, Emperor Dread, that's not a massive lie. The Xbox QA team, all on the one game that matters the most this year? Yeah, no, I believe that, no problem. No problem. No question.
Hundreds of people. Emperor Dread, did you watch the 45-minute presentation?
You would need hundreds of people to QA this thing.
You need it. To me, his quote, his comment shows that he did not watch the 45-minute presentation. Because if you did, you would think they need more than that.
Yeah, if anything, that's not going to be enough.
That's not enough, dude. Not even anywhere near enough.
Especially when it has contact with the millions of people that are going to play
it.
It's
like, it is mind-blowing. This game is mind-blowing. And I do feel, eventually, it will do everything that they say it's going to do, and it will work, and it will have clean code. The chances of that happening at launch, to me, seem minuscule.
Yeah. And do that, he didn't say that their QA people are all of them 100% all day, 7 days a week working on it, but I'm sure they've engaged every single person at some point.
He said every one of their QA people are working on Starfield.
Yeah. You're basically shifting the QA to crunch on this thing for the last few months, I'm sure, for polish.
What else are they going to be working on? Forza?
Yeah, Forza feels like more of a known quantity, right?
It's also much more simple to bug test and squash bugs.
Sure. And again, I'm sure Turn 10 has their own people in there and all that stuff. But
the systems in this game, the potential for them
making sure everything interacts in this thing properly is, look, it's not going to. I
don't believe it either.
This thing's going to come out and there's going to be weird shit in it.
You're going to find crazy stuff. Now, the fact that it's not procedurally generated helps.
Yeah. Although it is to some degree.
It is?
Each planet is. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it wasn't.
So, and it generated differently in each game.
Really?
So if I land on one particular planet, I'm going to have different stuff on that moon or whatever than you do.
Really?
Yeah, they said that.
I thought that
they said
built
that.
everything.
They built everything, but those hand-built things get populated on a randomized world.
I missed that in the presentation.
They talk about that about like 2/3 of the way through. How there's handcrafted stuff, but the game is drawing from like a bank of that to sort of build these different planets. And
Interesting.
You and I will have a different experience on the same planet in each of
Although
our
I think your starting planet is going to be the same for everybody.
it's like the
what is
cities.
it called? Old Atlantis or something?
Yeah,
like
and
that?
like all the cities, and those are all clearly fixed things.
Yeah.
But they're talking about like the random weird,
If you're just venturing out,
uninhabited
you find
places.
a moon
Yeah.
somewhere. Interesting. I missed that somehow. This game is insane. If they deliver this game as it's supposed to be, it's game of the century.
Oh, this is one of the games that's been just sort of random, existed sort of theoretically in my head for
Matt,
forever.
the whole time I watched that 45-minute piece, I just thought of you the whole frickin' time, dude. I was like, oh my God.
I mean, this is exactly why I keep saying this is my most anticipated game, even if I don't know if it'll be my favorite game of the year. If they pull this off, it'll be my favorite game of the fucking century.
It's unreal what they're trying to do with this game.
No Man's Skyrim with atmospheric, astronomical stuff factored in. Yes, please.
Matt, the combat, as somebody who's a gameplay first guy, I'll tell you what hit me at my core is the combat. The combat looks freaking awesome.
That's cool.
Dude, there's a jetpack. I was like, oh my God, it's tribes.
Yeah. They do. There was some tribes in there.
Yes,
Matt. I have two main criticisms of this.
Okay.
And the first one is, everyone in the combat, everybody is a little passive. Yeah, and that might be...
They kind of stand around and wait for you to shoot them a little bit.
Yeah, it feels like target shooting a little bit. It might just be because it's early on, might be because it's a demo, I don't know.
No, I saw it too.
But it just, everyone either stands around or Skyrim style, all the monsters just sort of flood at you and rush you. And I'm like, well, I hope there's a little more to it than that.
I agree, yeah.
And the other thing is, the environments are gorgeous.
Yeah.
I will walk around those planets.
The lighting is so different.
The lighting's incredible. The fact that it comes through the
actual sun.
The texture of the atmosphere differently depending on what's in the atmosphere. Unbelievable.
The light source is the actual
beautiful
sun.
Just beautiful. Exactly. And then you cut to the glassy-eyed other characters sort of hi, let's go outside now. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, you can romance. I'm like, why would I want to romance these fucking androids?
I agree with you a million. The character models look
they're
awful.
better. They're the best Bethesda's ever done, but they're still not up to par with either modern stuff or the rest of the game.
That's my biggest concern. And because the other part of it too is because a big part of the game is interacting with the other characters. You have to be staring at those ugly mugs a lot.
Yeah, and they vary wildly. There's a very clear distinction between main design characters and characters just sort of out in the world.
But even the main design ones, the lead female character that she's the leader of the army or whatever. She's just dead-eyed. She just
she looked all right to me compared to the one guy who's in your crew they keep talking about, and is
that has the flight thing over his head.
Yeah, and at one point he turns to you and talks, and I'm like, oh my God, it was just uncanny valley, just punched me in the nose or something.
Me too.
So those are
concern.
My two big caveats are I hope the characters, even if it's post-launch, they can sort of improve the look of the characters that talk to you, the interaction NPCs, and I hope the combat has a little more happening with the enemies than just we're gonna stand around or we're gonna charge you.
Yeah.
I hope we're at least at Mass Effect level of combat here.
Game looks insane.
But otherwise, it
just really
unbelievable.
Looks insane, man. If you haven't watched that 45-minute thing, later tonight when you're chilling out, you've had dinner, kicking your feet up on your recliner or on your couch or whatever, go to YouTube, go to Sifted, watch it, sit for 45 minutes, prepare to have your mind blown. It really is insane. If they pull this off, I will be stunned, honestly. My biggest fear now is that I realize how ambitious it is. I'm terrified that the game is going to be a mess. I really am. In my fantasy team, no one's going to forgive all those bugs, so we'll see how it goes. But I do think that eventually that game is going to be a game of the forever.
Oh, yeah.
Because they will not stop until they get it up to scratch.
Oh, yeah.
To your point about the lighting, all their games in the past are so flat and drab.
Yeah.
That lighting engine changes everything.
No, that's a big deal. And look, some of that you can see in their upgrades of Skyrim over the years. They clearly learned a lot about that over the course of upgrading that.
OG Skyrim was just this flat.
It had to be. It's what that system could do.
So
no, this is they're delivering on the thing that I care the most about in terms of what you're showing me in the game, of this concept, which is am I going to be able to land on these planets and see shit I've never seen in a game before? And that answer seems to be yes.
Oh, yes. More than you can even comprehend. Yeah.
So, and like, just want, I can find this up. Like, yeah, you're just not going to see me. Like, I'll fucking Zoom call in from downstairs when this game comes out. I'm going
to have to, like, throw a grapple hook and, like, climb in the window of your house and, like, knock on the window. Yo, we got to do the show.
You're going to come in and, like, the PC's going to be set up here. And I'm just going to be like, I'll be here. Just let me know. We're going to do it all in a live stream from my office.
And this is why we tell you guys, like, it's worth sacrificing, buying a few, like, B-tier games that you're not 1,000% psyched about to buy the other console. Like, instead of buying some, like, I don't know, B-tier PlayStation 5 game that you're like, I'm kind of excited for it, but not really, save that money and get an Xbox Series X so that you can play this game. Like, I can't say it. I've been saying this for 20 years to people, and it just goes in one ear and out the other. This is the perfect example of it. And you can see already Sony fans are starting to realize, holy crap, this game looks insane. So they're already starting to kind of like poison the well.
That's why they're all yelling about the
frame rate and the.
It's like you mean like
we see what people. It's so funny.
You mean
that
like Last of Us 2 ran at?
Know what they're doing.
You mean like God of War ran at?
Yeah.
You mean like they all. Come on.
PlayStation.
If you look at that game and think that's running at anything above 30 on modern consoles, you're out of your mind.
Ratchet and Clank ripped apart, 30 frames a second.
Man, I'm not even expecting it to run 60 on my PC.
Look, if it's locked at 30, I'm cool.
Sure.
That's all I care about. I don't want it to dip down to like 15
would
or 20.
Would I take 60? Sure. But
I just played Tears of the Kingdom that I think dipped down to like single digits at times. Like, come on.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter
at all. It's just, you're right. It's the one thing the Sony fanboys are hanging on to. It's 30 frames per second. Okay, what did Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart run at? 30 frames per second. Like, it's nothing. So, game looks awesome. And we're probably going to talk about it in depth in next week's episode because there's so much to discuss. We could do the whole rest of the show just on Starfield. But amazing game, amazing debut. One smaller thing that they did show for it was the controller.
Yeah, Ratchet did have a 60 mode.
Did it?
It did.
At launch?
I don't know about launch, but it had a 60 mode.
I don't know if it did. All its trailers are 30 frames.
I'm thinking about it, and I played that game at 60.
All its trailers are 30 frames per second.
No, it definitely had a 60 mode at some point. Maybe it was added later, but it definitely had a 60 mode.
Interesting. I knew that you could choose performance and quality.
Yeah, that was the difference. Same with Miles Morales. Yeah. There was a 60 mode performance and a 30 mode quality, and then later they added like the midpoint version, and they did it to Spider-Man Remastered too, where there was I think they did the same thing to Ratchet, where you could it was a ray tracing light mode that ran at 60.
Oh,
it was like a midpoint.
Gotcha.
But that was post launch. I don't remember if Ratchet launched with that, because Ratchet was later. I don't remember if Ratchet had that at launch, but there was definitely a 60 mode eventually.
Okay.
If not at launch.
Well, we just missed the whole trailer, but anyway, but the headset and controller for Starfield also look amazing.
Oh yeah, actually that might be here now.
So it leaked, and like a few days before the showcase, and everybody was like all over it. And it turns out it was real.
The headset and controller are outside.
They're downstairs right now.
They're delivered. You want me to go get it?
That's crazy.
I ordered that shit.
Yeah, they look awesome. I'm starting to come around on the whole NASA punk thing, Matt.
Yeah, it's still a dumb
It's
name,
the dumb name, but
it's the correct.
I like the aesthetic.
It describes it.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's punk in the sense of like steampunk, where it's like, although I will say
dirty it's basically meaning dirty and used.
Well, no, it means like aesthetic. It means stylistic, because punk in cyberpunk literally means pushing against the system. Props to that Clockwork Revolution game for putting the punk in steampunk for a change.
Yeah.
But like what you're using NASA punk to mean here, like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, I get it. Although some people are like, well, how come they're cowboys? It's like, because there's still going to be fucking hicks in space, dude. Like, come on, I'm sorry. Like, we're going to all if we spread out into the universe, into the galaxy, then like, yeah, there's going to be people that take the fucking cowboy aesthetic to some backwater planet and think they're in Firefly, and that'll be that.
The controller and the headset are both real sharp. Yeah. Did they come together, or do you have to buy them separately?
You buy them separately.
You do?
You want me to go get them?
We don't have time for you to run down there. Right. Maybe at a certain point, I'll send you down and grab it, and maybe we can show it off during Q&A at the end or something. Maybe that's what we'll do.
Okay.
We'll get to Q&A. Someone asks a question, I'll start answering it, and while I'm answering it, you can run down
interference, and I'll go get it.
Yeah, you can run down and grab it. But I think these look dope. Like, I don't need either one of them, but I'm thinking about buying them anyway. They look great. Starfield looks great. Hopefully they can hit it. Hopefully all the ambition behind the game is realized in the final game. It's a big X factor. There's no doubt about it. It's Bethesda. It does not have a great track record. I do like that they have the resources of Microsoft and Xbox there for this one, something they never had before. Hopefully that helps, but there's still an X factor there. Next up, I'm trying to figure out if this is the best thing that I saw all week, and that is Star Wars Outlaws gameplay.
It's very good.
It is. So I'll say this. When it first started, I was like, oh, this looks like trash. Because there's this scene where they're in this room with all these people and she's sneaking around and like nobody sees her. She like untethers this huge box and like pulls it over and jumps onto it and is like...
But I do like when she sends Nyx out to like... One of the options there is clearly... They don't show it because she has him press the button. But one of the options is clearly, go be cute and make everyone look at you,
right,
to distract them.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I love that. Like I was like, oh, there's a just be cute and make everyone look at you option. That's great.
This trailer,
apparently BD1 has guaranteed that no Star Wars narrative protagonist in a video game will ever not have a cute sidekick from now on.
Yeah, that looked a little rote to me, having a little critter after having just come off playing Jedi.
I mean, he's adorable. Like it's great. It'll work.
Yeah.
And he clearly can do more. It's different. It's a different mechanic because you can't really command BD1 to do the stuff that he can do. Like,
I mean, he's basically like a cat when it comes down to it.
Yeah, he's an axolotl cat.
The future cat.
Basically.
This trailer... So in this press conference, they just showed the trailer, and we'll talk about the gameplay a little later, which I alluded to just a second ago. This trailer did not kill me at first. Like, as far as like, oh my god, this is amazing. This is like mind-blowing. Like, I was like, it looks good. It looks like Project Ragtag, the game that they were working on at EA. Like, the few screenshots that we got to see of that.
Or Scum and Villainy, which was basically the same kind of game back in the old days.
Yeah.
Like,
this trailer didn't set my world on fire, is what I'm getting at.
I mean, it was good. I was like, it gets you the flavor, and it's like, okay, cool. Like a game where you're not playing a Jedi, you're in the underworld. You're kind of like Star Wars 1313 vibes in places.
Yep.
It's
set between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, it's like you got my attention, but I want to see what I'm doing.
Yep.
Basically.
And what's her last name? Is Kay? What's her last name?
I can't remember her last name.
I can't either. I think I have
Kay.
it somewhere else in my notes. But what do you think of her?
Seems cool.
Like, kept calling her a scoundrel. Like, over and over, like, when they did interviews for this game, every time they called her a scoundrel.
Yeah, well, that's literally a character class in Star Wars, basically. Yeah. I mean, she's Han Solo.
It's funny. It's almost like a dog whistle, though, to Star Wars fans.
Yeah,
they kept saying it over and over.
It's Han or Lando or, what's his name?
Anybody who just robs and steals, basically, yeah. And she's like...
I just realized... Hondo Onaka Hondo's just a combination between Han and Lando. Hondo.
You never put
I never put that one together before.
Now.
That's what his name is, just putting Han and Lando's name together and saying, there he is.
Hilarious. Erebus Jones brings up Dash Rendar.
Dash Rendar. Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah. The Han Solo, because we didn't have Han Solo.
Yeah, I mean, they're the people who rob and steal and run stuff.
Look, they're the people that scramble for a living in this horrible dystopian... I mean, look, that's the thing that, like, one of the things that
Hustlers.
I think that people kind of overlook in Star Wars is, like, it would suck to live in Star Wars.
It would.
Like,
the world
it's miserable.
Yeah,
like, the whole galaxy is miserable. Like, unless you're one of the high-end, like, rich people. Like, the Star Wars saga is largely, especially the prequels, are about very privileged rich people. And, like, the life you live, I mean, I don't think anything illustrates that better than something like this or Andor. That's one of the things I love, both about the trailer in this and about the gameplay footage, is how much of this game seems to be showing the day-to-day, on-the-ground life in Star Wars, which I always find fascinating.
We got that in Jedi, too, finally.
It's absolutely in Jedi Survivor. It's in Andor. It's in Kenobi to some degree.
Yeah.
Like, I like seeing all that. I mean,
me too.
It's anything that drives home how much it would... There's a reason nobody wants to have Star Wars meals.
Yeah.
Like, it's a horrible place.
Every time I've ever seen anyone eat anything in Star Wars, it's always the most disgusting thing ever.
The only thing I don't want to eat is the Insta bread that Rey makes in The Force Awakens. Like that. I'm like, that looks pretty good. That looks all right. But yeah, I don't think I would live very long in Star Wars just because I wouldn't want to eat all the weird arthropods they constantly have everywhere.
It's disgusting. Jabba's little bowl of nastiness that he eats.
Oh yeah, I hope you get to visit Jabba at some point in this and see like Han on the wall.
Yeah, totally possible.
Like that.
I thought there was a scene where they showed him in Carbonite.
They show someone in Carbonite.
You don't think it's him?
I don't know if it's Han. I couldn't
okay.
tell. I only saw it the one time.
Gotcha. The game looks awesome. We're going to get into it a little bit more.
Because as we've seen, once Boba Fett did that in Empire, that became all the rage of how to like transport people as a bounty hunter. Oh, we're just freezing everybody in Carbonite now. But
yep. So that we saw the trailer here, and then we'll talk about the gameplay that we see later on. Still, even though I was like, it looks cool, blah, 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 I was still excited.
it was like, hey, new Star Wars game, different thing. At least it's coming in 2024.
They didn't show there was open world in that trailer really much.
We knew it.
But we knew it,
we've known
and that was enough.
Yeah, we've known it's open world Star Wars action RPG from Massive for years now.
Yep.
You know.
And then next up, we finally got our first look at the new Fable. And I'll be honest with you, Matt, I'm still not really sure what it is.
I think it's just gonna. I mean, you can see there's some gameplay in here.
There is, but is it a small person, big world game?
No, he's a giant.
He's a giant. Everybody else is normal sized.
Yeah. It's Jack and the Beanstalk. That's why he's talking about vegetables the whole time.
Oh,
he's a giant.
I see. Okay.
And she's
here's like you see those few scenes of gameplay there. You don't get to see much. There's
gameplay where she's like dodging his hand, like smash over there. But it's like obviously there's no HUD, and it's probably tweaked. But they said like there
is the one beanstalk scene.
The lead programmer, the lead guy or whatever on this game said this was all captured on Xbox Series X.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like this is all running on a
CG.
Series X. No, he said it's all in game, in engine on the Series X. They did not pre-render any of this. It looks amazing.
I mean, yeah, it does absolutely. I mean, I kind of suspected this was all in engine. I just didn't understand if the whole game was going to be played where you're as the little person. And
this is just a joke.
It's just like one scene.
He's a giant because they're going much more literal with the title in this. It seems like because this is a fable. Mm-hmm. They're literally doing fables.
Interesting.
Like I think that's what happened. I think that's the
set in Albion. Still.
Yeah, it's still an Albion. But I think all the fables of like fairy tales and stuff are real in this.
Huh.
Whereas like the old games were more like a parody of like RPGs, basically, right?
Yeah.
There was a satire of like role-playing games.
Yeah.
Where I think this is more of a satire of fables and fairy tales and fantasy.
I do like the comedy is still there.
Yeah, the attitude is still there. And the idea of it almost being like a reality show makes sense here because there always was a little bit of it. There was always that through line through all three games of mocking celebrity culture and mocking sort of hero worship and kind of that whole thing. And that kind of tracks here. Like I'm sure you won't have interviews like this in the final game. Like it won't be what the game does. But like as a tone setter, like I think it works. It's not the same as the originals.
Yeah,
but
it is a reboot.
But it still has that attitude, and I like that. And it's actually a little less cringy than the original approach. I think.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it looks good, but we don't have a lot of information about when it's coming out.
I think we'll be lucky if we're playing this at the end of next year,
like Q4 2024. Yeah. That's what it looks like.
But at least it's something. I'm shocked by how many people did not get that he's the giant.
I mean, there's one. I thought there was one scene in the trailer where they're trying to climb a beanstalk, isn't there?
Yeah,
and it did click in my mind, but I just thought that like you climb the beanstalk and then you're in this big world, small person thing for the whole game.
Oh no, it's just a part of it.
So it's just like one of the fables. Yeah. You sure?
100%.
Because they don't show other fables in this.
Well, no, this is just the one they're talking about. But she's running around killing Balverines, and they're all the same size as her.
Right.
He's just the giant from Jack and the Beanstalk. That's why he's talking about cultivating vegetables the whole time, because that's what he does.
Interesting.
That's why there's a giant
fables
beanstalk.
Might be then.
I mean, I'm sure there'll be a Red Riding Hood thing. That's probably why there's Balverines running around.
Yeah.
I mean, anything, I'm sure you'll fight Baba Yaga at some point, or the witch in the gingerbread house, or there's tons of stuff you can do with that, and you can just twist it all because everybody knows 3 bears.
Yeah.
Basically you insert yourself into any big bad wolf. 3 pigs.
I saw the usual suspects are angry because she's not some like Playboy model.
Yeah, well, neither are the people complaining about it. So.
You mean Playgirl models?
Either way.
Either way, yep. So anyway, we don't really have a hard release date, just 2024. And honestly, that's kind of a recurring theme throughout the entire Xbox showcase, 2024, which is why the lower third says, one more year. We need to wait one more year for all this stuff to finally come to fruition and for us to consistently get good exclusives on Xbox and Game Pass. But still, an auspicious debut. Next up, Avowed. So we thought that this was an Elder Scrolls clone coming from Obsidian. And as it turns out, initially, that is what it was supposed to be. But throughout the course of development, and I believe in the line of trying to get the game out before like 2040, they decided to call the game back a little bit and make it more like the Outer Worlds instead of Skyrim. So they're saying this game is ultimately going to be around 20, 30 hours instead of like 60 or 70 hours.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
No, yeah, Outer Worlds is great.
Yeah.
Like largish areas with like a story. I mean, that's what Obsidian does best. So yeah, for sure.
Some people were disappointed in that, but
I'm not all that. I mean, I replayed Fallout New Vegas, obviously modded to within an inch of its life recently, and I'll be honest, the open world is the weakest part of that game.
Yeah.
Like you just want to get to the basic
it's really empty
story
as well.
stuff. Yeah, absolutely. It's like I think doing it like this is leaning into what Obsidian is best at.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that at all.
Did this surprise you at all? Like, is this what you expected it to be?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, it's the Pillars of Eternity universe, so that's basically, yeah.
I was surprised that there are, like, guns in it. And
there's some, like, kind of almost steampunk, diesel punk elements to those games.
That kind of
especially the second one. The second one, Dreadfire, is much more Industrial Revolution-ish with magic.
I'll say this, too. Watching this footage, comparing it to EA's Immortals of Avium looks like a much better playing game. As far as first-person magic casting.
Well,
like, this looks a little slow and a little...
That's a much more deliberate game.
Yeah.
I mean, much like Skyrim. But, like, if I had to pick one, I would pick this one in a heartbeat.
Well, this is going to have way more RPG elements.
Much more RPG. Here's the thing. I mean, not in comparison to this. We'll get to Immortals of Avium, but, like, that game, I think... here's my prediction for Immortals of Avium. Specifically you, are going to get your hands on that game and are going to hate how it plays.
I don't know if I'll hate how it plays. I think I'm going to hate the story because the trailers for it. The voice acting is like terrible. And
I can't articulate it, but there's something about watching the gameplay on that game where I'm like, that's not going to feel good.
We'll see.
And I don't know why I'm thinking that, but there's something about that just feels it's going to be off somehow.
All I know is all the cinematic moments that they've shown in trailers for that game so far have been terrible.
It's not great.
I mean, the voice acting, the writing.
Get your sigils ready.
Yeah, I mean, that part of it already.
There is nothing interesting or appealing about that world either. Like, that's the thing. That's the thing is I'm much more invested in this because I already played the Pillars of Eternity games and know that I'm interested in that setting. And seeing it from this point of view is going to be a very different thing because it's always been like kind of that Baldur's Gate 3/4 look.
That looks good. I'm not slagging it at all. It's just a different style game. Again, 2024. We don't have a hard date for it yet, which is a shame. This game's also been in development for 3 or 4 years at this point.
Although I'll be honest, like if you look at if Starfield delivers, Spider-Man delivers, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good till the end of the year. Thank you.
Yeah. I saw the head of Xbox Studios was saying...
We don't even know what Nintendo's putting out for holiday yet.
I know.
So.
I saw the head of Xbox Studios was saying today that you just have to start expecting that games take 4 to 6 years to make.
Yep.
That's just the way it is now. And if you expect anything shorter, you're going to end up with games that aren't as great. So,
yeah, and they're basically like we've just had to kind of live through the delay on that as they catch up to themselves, basically.
And this is at about the 4-year mark at this point, so when do you think we're going to see this one, Matt?
I mean, knowing Obsidian, that just feels like a 2025.
Oh, really? You don't think even next year? Because they said 2024.
Yeah, but I think this one's going to slip.
Interesting. I mean, the truth is you'll find out.
It might be next year, but like I wouldn't. Like I ain't drafting it. Spoiler: if you want this one on the fantasy team, you can have it.
If they announce a real release date of like January or February, then maybe I will.
Yeah, maybe if it's at the Game Awards and it gets an actual bracket somehow. But like not right now, I would not put my money on that or Fable.
The other thing too is as we go through this Xbox showcase, you're going to realize there are so many big Xbox games coming in 2024.
Yeah, everything is next year.
Conceivably, they could push it and be like, we're still okay. So to your point, it could make sense ultimately. So that's Avowed. Again, it's coming from Obsidian. Supposed to come out next year. Could come out in 2025. And then next is the most confounding game for me of all of E3 week. The one game where I just looked at it and was like, why was this greenlit? And that is Path of the Goddess, a brand new IP from Capcom.
I do not understand what this is.
I don't either. And it's actually Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess. It's coming for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. It's a hack and slash, and that's about all I can tell you about it. Like, set in weird Japanese mythology. It is bizarre. Like, I don't understand how you go to a pitch meeting with this game and land the pitch.
I mean, like, visually it's cool.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
like,
Visually, it looks amazing.
when it gets into, like, the gameplay, it looks really slow.
I don't even know how to explain this game.
I don't quite... Like, couldn't get a feel for what you were going to do in it other than obviously swing a sword at things. But, like, I didn't get what the hook was beyond, like, the visuals.
I don't either. And I've looked all over the internet trying to figure out... They have released, like, hardly any information about this. And then Capcom, in its press conference, just published the same trailer.
It's the same trailer, yeah.
I
get the impression this is way
out. Yeah.
It almost feels proof of concept.
Maybe. It's so bizarre. What is this?
I mean, it's unique.
I mean, it looks like it's from, like, the people at Capcom that makes their arty games. Yeah. Honestly. Like, this is their branch that does, like, this type of stuff. But this one, like, I feel like maybe they went too far out there.
I mean, they're leaning real hard into the yokai element there. And, like, I mean, I don't know. Like, maybe
the art's insane.
It looks cool. Like, I'm super into that. But like watching this sequence, I'm just like, oh,
what is going on?
That looks like a PS2 game in terms of, like, kind of the gameplay functionality. I don't know what else to describe it. It's like a bad version of a Togi or something.
Yeah.
Like, I would need to see more, really.
Again,
aesthetically incredible. Like,
yeah.
Like,
I love the art.
I love looking at it. I just don't know what I'm looking at.
I don't either. It's bizarre. So we don't have hardly any information on that, but it was in this. It was also in Capcom's press event. My guess is we probably won't see that game until 2026 or something like that.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this is like another Deep Down.
Mm-hmm. You know, that just disappears. We never see it again.
Or that, like, we're like what's Pragmata or whatever, where, like, the whole trailer was just an apology.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, this is your new Pragmata. This is the new thing. It's like, is that coming out still?
Ever?
Oh yeah, it's later.
We thought Dragon's Dogma 2 was one of those, and
Dragon's Dogma 2 was never announced.
Well, it was recently. For a long time before we got that trailer of not long ago.
No, if
you go back and look on Sifted, I could pull it up now, but if you go back and look on Sifted, we had hints of Dragon's Dogma 2 years ago.
Yeah, but they didn't say anything about, like, Dragon's Dogma 2 is coming until this
way
year.
Before the showcase, this PlayStation showcase they did. Yeah, it was announced.
I would have known. They didn't.
No, I can show you if you want me to.
Go ahead.
Believe me.
I don't, because I would have known that. I feel. I mean, they've talked about, we might do that. I mean, I know they did that Dragon's Dogma online thing that lasted. It was in Asia only or something, whatever that was, which was annoying that I couldn't play that, but I guess it wasn't very good anyway.
I can find it real quick.
But now, as far as I remember, there was no confirmation on Dragon's Dogma 2 until they finally admitted, here it is.
Yep, there was. Here we go. So here's the game page. Actually, I'll bring this up for everybody so they can all see it.
What did it accomplish?
So here you can see how much coverage we already have for Dragon's Dogma. Mm-hmm. And Dragon's Dogma 2 was announced in 2021. January 2nd.
Teases upcoming announcement. So when did they actually announce it?
In the 10 years of Dragon's Dogma.
Did they mention it at the 10 years?
And that was June of 2022. Yep.
I don't think I believed them.
Okay.
There, Dragon's Dogma announced.
Yeah, 6/16/2022. Yeah. So it's been out there for a while.
But rumored for like 10 years.
Yeah.
People kept...
Yeah, that's what I was saying. We talked about it for a long time, and then finally
we
got like the trailer or whatever. So, so I don't know. It could be Dragon's Dogma 2. It could be Pragmata. Who knows? But it is one bizarre game. That's one thing I'm 100% sure of. Let's see. Next up. Probably the most disappointing thing for me from this week, and that was Hellblade 2.
Just in the sense that they didn't really show anything?
Yeah, it was like, it was really just a focus on the psychological angle of the franchise, which is very important. I understand why they would want to do that. And it was a focus on, and I've been pronouncing her name wrong all along, it's Senua.
Yeah.
I haven't been saying it that way.
What have you been saying?
Senua. But
Senua.
they say it Senua.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been saying Senua. But anyway...
It might just be accent difference.
Could be. But this trailer is all about her. It's all about psychology. Like, if you watch this trailer with surround sound, it's incredible. There's voices coming from all over the place.
I mean, that was the first game.
Yeah.
I mean, the sound design on these games have always been amazing.
But nothing really happens in this. It's like we've waited a really long time for an update on this game.
Well, we still don't know anything about what it is, how it plays, any of that. It's a long time. Although she said in the intro that apparently that weird torso monster thing is a troll.
Oh, really?
She said that she hunted a troll.
Oh.
So that's a troll.
Oh,
turns out.
Interesting. But this trailer was not interesting. Like it's really long too. It's like almost 3 minutes long, and it's just like nothing happens.
I mean, it's interesting to me in terms of like the visuals are weird and like the sound design's great, and I care about this character as a character. Like I'm interested in what happens to her in this game. But yeah, we still don't know what the hell happens in this game.
No.
And it feels again, and I know they said like 2024 or whatever. It just again makes me feel like this game is way out.
I mean, they only showed this, and now they're saying it's still not until next year.
I mean, maybe it's just not worth blowing it out until you're closer. I mean, look, we didn't see anything substantial about Starfield until now, and it's 3 months away.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Ninja Theory has called this game from the very first one a AAA indie.
Yeah.
And now I'm starting to understand it, meaning that they only have a 30-man team or something building the game.
Right, but that's the point of how they did it was like they didn't need more than that.
Because they had their technology, the facial animation stuff that they've built, which is impressive and amazing. But as far
I get
as,
the impression there's a lot of ambition on this game. I think there's going to be. I think this game, because the first game, I mean, it was a very huge achievement, but also it's a small sort of folded in. You're not doing you're walking, you're slashing, you're solving some fairly rudimentary visual puzzles, basically, right? And it doesn't really change over the course of the game.
True. Yeah.
I feel like this thing's going to be like God of War level stuff. I think you're going to be like blown away. I think that's the idea. Is you're going to be blown away by how much you do in this game that was just not even a part of the world.
It's almost a borderline adventure game.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think it's going to be the different. I'm trying to come up with a comparison analog, but it isn't really one. Yeah,
there isn't. But disappointing that it's not coming out till 2024 still. This trailer was
not
also
particularly surprising, but like it's just I was kind of hoping for more information.
Me too.
But it's just like I guess you don't really need to.
I guess.
Like, this game's going to sell itself by the time that
Did
happens.
the first one sell that well?
It did sell pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a word of mouth sleeper thing, but it did well enough to like warrant them to buy them. You know? But yeah, eventually it did. I don't think a lot of the copies sold were full price, but like Hellblade made a splash.
Okay, but again,
more than Heavenly Sword did.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, what happened to that franchise? Another game though that's not coming out till 2024 for Xbox. Again, one more year. We got to wait one more year. Next up, a game that I think was probably the darling of this press event, Clockwork Revolution. If you're a fan of BioShock, you should be paying attention to this.
There's an element of this. It feels like BioShock Infinite, but like done
better
without fear, basically. It's like what if BioShock Infinite was actually about what it claimed to be about.
Yeah, this game is made by In Exile, and as you can see, it is a steampunk styled first-person action RPG.
Unless you change the timeline, in which case it becomes a diesel punk game.
Because the other thing is that this game has time manipulation in it. It's a big element of the game. You can rewind, which is obvious, and a lot of games have done that. But there's other ways that you can manipulate time in this game as well.
And big props for making one of the very few examples I can think of steampunk that actually knows what the punk means.
Yeah.
The fighting against the system. The recalcitrance against the unjust ruling class.
I mean, BioShock does that, though.
They head fake in the direction of it.
But I mean, they do. That aesthetic is in there, like especially with Infinite. It's like you versus the man most.
Right, but I don't agree with that really.
Yeah.
It's only in the intro because
that's a good point. Because it does go away.
It completely like dilutes the whole thing, and by the time the actual conflict between it actually degenerates into a both sides suck thing, which is nonsense.
That's true, actually.
Which is stupid.
Yeah.
And so I'm sorry, but DayZ is not the same as Comstock. It doesn't make any sense, but. This definitely seems to be leaning into a more. I mean, look, part of the thing that people have problems with, sort of like, and people criticize the idea of like blank punk, including the NASA punk thing, is cyberpunk comes from the fact that the original Neuromancer and stuff was, the cyber stuff is obviously about the tech of the setting, but the punk is about someone who's rejecting the system and fighting against it and kind of leading some kind of revolution of some kind, or at least in their own head. Whereas steampunk is just an aesthetic. Like there's no. It doesn't, steampunk just describes a look. It doesn't describe content of anything, really. Yeah. But this is actually taking this and applying that a classic cyberpunk idea to a steampunk setting, to the point that you can tear the steampunk setting down and build a different one.
Right.
And that's pretty great.
It is pretty cool.
Like, that's a pretty great way to take direction to take it.
And this is smart, too, because this is another IP that Xbox
This
is
is
building.
amazing. Like the moving red carpet thing is fucking
Yeah.
amazing. Like
There's a lot of cool.
there's a
little
lot of
stuff
great. I
in
mean,
this.
In Exile always has great visual design, but like they've never really done anything of this caliber before, so that's really exciting to see.
New IP, you know. While we sit and wait for the next BioShock, which I thought we might see,
and their
we
game,
didn't.
you know, the previous games are real good storytelling things. You know, they did that Torment thing, which is I think this one's gonna catch some people off guard.
Yeah, it's looking pretty awesome, but I'll give you one guess when it's supposed to come out.
Whenever.
Actually, this one they didn't even say 2024.
No, I didn't say anything.
They were just like basically when it's done.
Yeah,
they didn't even bother.
This feels like that we're gonna give you a taste of like some of the stuff that's coming. And I mean, at least it wasn't pre-rendered.
That's true.
It's not like a proof of concept thing.
Yeah.
This is clearly something that's functioning somewhere. But yeah, I'll see you in 2025.
Game's looking hot. It's called Clockwork Revolution. Follow it on Sifted. Go to the game page. Click the gear. Click follow. Anytime something new that is published for that game will appear at the top of your Sift. You can do it for any game in our database, and we have I think at this point, 12,000 games or something in our database. You can follow any game on the site, and anytime something is published for that game, it will pop to the top of your Sift. Go do it for Clockwork Revolution. Next up, Persona 6. But not. It's a game called Metaphor,
Oh yeah.
but it's basically Persona 6 with out of school and older kids, basically.
What was the name of this?
Metaphor D Arenas?
No, it's like some yeah, it's a weird name.
I just call it Metaphor.
This just looks like Persona Fire Emblem to
Pretty
me,
much, yeah.
which I'm fine with.
Me too. I mean, they reuse the menu system and the fonts and everything.
Early on, I thought it might be a Persona
I thought it was too,
because it's so close.
Even that stacking right there of the party members, it's pulled straight out of Persona. It's a turn-based RPG, just like Persona. It's just, to me, it's like a grown-up Persona in some ways. It's like not a bunch
everybody still looks about 15 though.
Yeah, but they're not in high school anymore.
Well, not that we know of.
I'm just about due to play another Persona game.
It's not going to be Persona 3. I'll tell you that much.
Well, Persona 5, man, I don't even know, 80 hours or something into it.
I was enough of that for a while.
How long ago was that now?
A few years.
And I'm still probably not ready to play another one because they're just so big.
I was kind of on board for the Persona 3 remake until I found out it does not include the Fez stuff or the PlayStation Portable upgrades.
Yeah, I'm surprised to
why
hear
would you
that.
not make that a complete version of that? Oh, it's
quick
dumb.
and dirty.
Dumb.
They're trying to find a cheaper way to do it, apparently.
Yeah.
What do you think of this game?
Cool.
I like the art.
Art's nice. I feel like it's just going to be another one of it's just like the other. It's just like Persona 5. It's like I'm going to play it for a while and I'm going to get real tired of the repetition and I just hope the writing's a little better. Mm-hmm.
I like that it's not set in a high school for once. That's good.
Yeah, that helps. But I just I don't have a lot of faith in sort of the general Persona style thing of not just repeating itself over and over again. It's the same.
They do get repetitive.
It's both a good and a bad thing. It's like the same creative team, right?
Yeah.
Aesthetically, though, really cool.
Swanland says this game has been in development for years. Obviously, yeah. I mean, it's been in development since Persona 5. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, they were doing how many Persona 5 games were there now? 5?
Several, yeah.
I think there's 5 Persona 5
games. If you count the full spin-offs, like the Dynasty Warriors game and stuff.
There was the Stratica one that we're going to talk about here shortly.
One. There's the Royal Edition, or whatever that was. There was the
Persona 5 Royal.
There was the
there was the hack and slash
Muso game. Yeah.
I think there's 5.
The fighting game.
Yeah. I think there's 5 total.
There's the music game.
That's right. Dancing in Starlight or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, it's good to see. To me, it's good to see that they're moving away from Persona for a while and they're trying something new. And I do enjoy Persona, and I can only do it once every 6 or 7 years, and it looks like the timing is going to work out perfectly. As of right now, it only has a 2024 release date. So we should get more information on that pretty soon, maybe at Tokyo Game Show, actually, in September. Next up, a game called, and this is awesome. The good games just keep rolling, Matt. This game's called South of Midnight. This is from Compulsion Games, the studio that made We Happy Few, the crazy game that came out just as Xbox had bought Compulsion. It's about this tripped out alternate world. It's almost like a Clockwork Orange is what that game reminds me of. This one has
some Clockwork Orange, some Brave New World in it. Yeah.
This one appears to have a different angle, but a very similar bent at the same time.
And, like, this guy's basically claymation.
The whole game is stop action animation. Like, you'll see a shot of her where she ticks, like her animation's like tick 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 tick. It's pretty cool. Like, this trailer's really freaking cool and really awesome, the animation in this. But we didn't get a ton of information about it. It's also coming out in 2024 as of right now. But all they really said is that it's an action-adventure game that takes place in the Deep South, basically in Louisiana, and that's it. It's an action-adventure, not an action RPG. And that's pretty much all they gave us, just this cinematic trailer, but I'm already hooked into the world and the aesthetic and the ideas behind it. Looks pretty awesome. What do you think of it, Matt?
That's cool. Like, I think, kind of the dark mystical angle of the bayou and
there's going to be tons of voodoo and crap in this.
Yeah, sure. Looks neat. Again, if you give me something that looks different, that, like, I don't have anything to really compare this to.
Yeah.
I guess there's a little bit of Little Nightmares to it, but it's a very different take on the idea. Well, I got to see what the game is, but, like, you've got my attention.
Well, they've announced that they're making a new Shadow Man game. And somehow I do not feel like the Shadow Man game will look as intriguing.
No, probably not.
But that's also set in Louisiana Bayou and has a bunch of voodoo and all that stuff in it. It would be nice if this is what the new Shadow Man looked like, but I'm guessing
I'm also going to guess that there's maybe a little more research put in this one.
Yeah.
Shadow Man has always been a little
a little loosey-goosey
on that kind of idea.
Yeah. But I love the art in this. I love the style of it. Again, that is called South of Midnight. And it's from Compulsion, which means it will be an Xbox and PC exclusive. Another new IP, which is great to see. Next up, pulling up to the starting grid to save your fantasy team. Yeah. It's Forza Motorsport. We finally got the release date for this. It is coming out on October 10th of 2023. Again, October is just jam-packed with incredible games. This one might get lost in the shuffle. This might really suffer in sales.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to suffer in sales anyway because of Game Pass.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason to buy this game.
Yeah.
Like, and I already know, like, I'm going to download this game, I'm going to play it for, like, half a day, and then I'm going to get distracted by something else, and then, like, a month later, I'm going to uninstall it because I need the hard drive space back, and that'll be that.
I'll play it long enough to be like, I get it.
Yep, I get it.
I figured out how the rubber banding works, how the AI is, and then once I get it, like, I will not be going back to perfect my lap times. I will go back to playing Forza Horizon, but it sure does look pretty.
I'll go back to playing Spider-Man
or
too.
Whatever. You're right. In October, God knows what I'll be pulled in like 8 different directions at that point. But at least we now know that it is coming, and it probably will do very well for your fantasy team. Like, it'll probably get
it'll be
high
fine.
8 or a low 9 would be my guess. These games are typically very good. But it is coming out on October 10th. You're going to have to make some tough decisions there on what you want to play and what you want to buy. Although, you're right.
Game
if you're
Pass
a Game
makes
Pass
that
subscriber,
simpler.
you don't have to worry about it. And so, as we always say, just subscribe to Game Pass, people. I don't know how many more times I got to say it before you'll do it. Next up, an announcement for Cyberpunk 2077, and a really, really good one and a really impressive one. Matt, one thing I will say about CD Projekt Red is
they don't give up.
They launched this in disaster status, and it has turned into one of the best games in the industry over time. And they have, once they figured out that they really screwed up out of the gate, they've fixed everything just about as good as you could have.
Well, then now they're going to overhaul it completely.
And now they're going to overhaul a bunch of systems.
Whole game?
I thought there was just
The base
3
game, too.
systems or whatever.
No, the whole base game's being changed.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought there was 3 specific systems they were changing.
They are overhauling how everything works.
Wow.
It's going to become a different... I was reading a Twitter thread from this... She played it, and like, they're changing how the skills work. All skills are going to be use-based.
They're all wiped, right?
They're all wiped. They're use-based now. They're like Skyrim. Or they're like, the more you use them, the more they improve.
Powerful they get.
Dodging is its own button now. Melee attacks can block bullets. Like, there are no more incremental upgrades. You're unlocking new moves. You're unlocking new full abilities. There's no more like, oh, maybe I'll put one more point in this tree, and it's all that. There's different factions. You can call in drop ships that drop in allies to help you. Like, different factions fight in the street. She's like, it's a different game. It's a completely different game. And
it is going to cost $30, but I mean, it sounds like it's worth it to me.
It sounds like it might be worth playing the game again.
Right.
So, yeah.
I mean, I've already finished it.
Look,
I'm not playing it again.
This is the CD Projekt Red of old.
Yeah.
Like, these are the people that were like, oh, people thought The Witcher 1 was not amazing. We're just going to remake the whole fucking game, re-record all the voices, and give it to you for free.
They really persevered through this game.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. They kind of had to, Matt. I mean, their reputation was on the mat
Yeah, I mean, this was a No Man's Sky situation, really. It's like you had to come back.
You gotta fix it. You gotta make it right.
And now you're in the same thing with Hello Games, where you're like, okay, you're just going above and beyond at this point. Like, I mean, I think this game, and I still don't like it as much as like Witcher 3 or anything, but I feel like they got it to the point where it was respectable.
Hell yeah, absolutely. I mean, I liked the base game. Like, I played it, and I didn't have a lot of problems. I didn't play like the PS4 version that was a disaster or whatever. So
I mean, I played I just replayed about half of the game on PC earlier this year. I still think it's a pretty boring game.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think it's very engaging.
I don't know. You play games differently though.
But a lot of it is because a lot of the side stuff is very bland and empty.
That was what I was getting at.
And there's not really much happening. And I
just went through the campaign basically, and I
went through a
enjoyed
fair amount of the campaign. I think that's also fairly unimpressive for the most part. It's better than the rest of the game, but also I think it suffers from the fact, and it's not a fact, but it's a speculation on my part that I think you're originally supposed to play through. I think the first act of the game was originally supposed to be you play through that year of doing minor crimes and coming up in the ranks with Jackie.
Well, yeah, because they just... Is it okay to spoil what happens now?
3-year-old game? Yeah, I think you're good.
I mean, they killed off Jackie so quick,
and
man.
It's still a good scene.
Yeah,
it's still
the scene is good.
But it would have had a lot more weight if you got to know this character over so many hours of gameplay. And I think that was there. I think that montage at the beginning when you first get to Night City, and then
actually what you would have done.
I think that was the whole first act of the game that they just said, well, we got to get out of it. We got to get this thing out.
Possible.
You know?
Yeah. So they've saved the game.
Yeah, for sure. And like again, the way they're talking about how they revamped everything, that sounds more like the game I wanted to play on a moment to moment sort of how the game evolved. Because like I do think the upgrading of the character and the way stats are not tied to clothes anymore. Like that's all done through cyberware upgrades.
Yeah.
And so you can customize all that way more. And so your clothes are just up to how you want to look, which is great.
Yeah.
It sounds way more like what I wanted to play, and I'm into that. I don't know when I will have time to do that. And then on top of that, the expansion looks really cool. Idris Elba looks like a great get.
Yep.
It was fun to see Keanu Reeves again. Being a goon up there, and it's like I'm excited to work with Idris. I'm like, we're all excited to work with Idris Elba. Who wouldn't be? Idris Elba should be in everything.
Yeah, he kind of is. It feels like at this point. It feels like he's in everything, and he's great. I love him. I'm not complaining.
Can't you just give him one James Bond movie? Like, even if he doesn't play him for like years, I just want one Idris Elba James Bond movie.
Shiki says, "What's the point of custom clothes when you never see your character?" I mean, that's a problem.
That is a good point. Like one of the only other things that would be left would be third person mode.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes in the third person mode when you get on a fucking car.
Starfield, by the way, can be played first person or third.
Yeah, well, we'll see how functional that is. I mean, I've never.
Which one do you think may not be functional?
Third person.
Third person.
I've never felt...
They showed a lot of combat and stuff in third person. They did,
but I've never felt like third person has ever quite felt right in a Bethesda game.
Agreed.
But they've been getting closer.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yep. And then the final big thing from Xbox's press conference is hardware. A brand new Xbox Series S, carbon black. It has a 1 terabyte hard drive instead of 500 gigs, so it doubles the hard drive of the Series S, but it also jacks up the price of the Series S by $50. Pachter was asked about this in the episodes we shot yesterday, and I don't want to spoil too much of what he said, but he was like, it's basically a ripoff. He's like, there's no way an extra 500 gigs costs Microsoft $50. No. He's like, it probably costs them $5 buying it in bulk.
And at that point, just spend 150 more and get the real one.
Yeah, and then frankly. Exactly, that's what I would say. And I wondered that. I'm like, well, shouldn't people at that price, shouldn't they just buy Series X? And he's like, one thing I never realized about the Series S is that it exists solely to be a Game Pass machine. Mm-hmm. It's a cheap console that runs most of the indie stuff on Game Pass is going to look amazing. Most of the high-end games on Game Pass are going to look passable at least. And so it exists solely for people who want to just jump into the Game Pass ecosystem without having to spend the full $500. Because Series S was only $300 until now. Now at $350, I kind of agree with you. Like, it's worth it to just spend the extra $150 and get the real thing. Like, I don't know. I would never buy this thing, honestly.
No. Not for that kind of money.
And we also found out today that, according to Phil Spencer, that they have no interest in a mid-cycle refresh. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to get some funky Series X whatever.
They're not going to say they have any interest in that until they announce it one day. But I mean, I never thought that was in the cards anytime soon.
We've talked about that before here on the show, and both of us agreed that we didn't think that was going to happen. So
we're not going to talk about Flight Simulator?
We are.
Right.
So this is just this is all the awesome stuff. Now we're gonna get, and this is how good this Xbox press event was. Now we're gonna start talking about the stuff that's not quite as big of a deal. Payday 3.
Certainly not as big of a deal.
I mean, Payday 3. This is probably one of the most disappointing things that I saw in the entire week. They didn't show this game for forever. Like, we didn't even have, like, teaser trailers of this game for a really long time. And now we know why, because the game looks like ass.
It looks like Payday.
I mean, it does. It looks like Payday. It doesn't look like they've done, like, if they use a new engine or anything for Payday 3. Like, I understand that it's really the concept and the idea behind this franchise that makes it popular. It's a dedicated heist game, blah, blah, blah. But, man, does it look long in the tooth technically. It just looks like an indie game, and I guess it is in some regards. The problem is that this studio is in deep trouble financially. It needs Payday 3 to pay off, or it may dissolve, may go away. And the game has been delayed. It's been taking forever. Well, I guess the good news for them is they finally have a release date. It is coming on September 21st. Did you get into any of the Payday games, Matt, for any period of time?
No.
Yeah, I'm not a big heist guy either. It's just not something that I'm particularly interested in. Now, this is basically the creme de la creme of the heist games.
Yeah.
I don't even think GTA Online managed to supplant it, but...
Yeah, the most experience I have with Payday is walking past the booth every year at E3 for however many years they were. Yeah.
Look, I do realize this game has a lot of fans, like have a pretty big fan base. I'm just not one of them.
Sure, but that's their problem.
And if you're trying to get new people into it, one thing that will help with doing that is having a game that's technically proficient. Mm-hmm. And when a game isn't technically proficient, that is a turnoff for me.
Oh, no, I don't know. I mean, look, it's like you're either interested in this or you're not.
Yeah,
like,
you mean in the concept and the idea?
Yeah, and I sure am not.
Yeah, me either. But again, it's
impressive they've been able to take something which is basically like we're going to turn the opening scene of The Dark Knight into a franchise. Yeah. You know,
it worked with the masks and everything. Yeah, totally. So anyway, that's Payday 3. Again, it's coming on September 21st. For those of you who are interested, one of the cooler things and one of the ideas from this week that I was like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Is Sea of Thieves cross Monkey Island. Yeah. This is a match made in heaven that probably should have happened a long time ago.
Well, I don't know if it could happen a long time ago because it's only recently that Lucasfilm has started to get open to acknowledging their other properties.
Well, then Mr. Gilbert said today that he knew nothing about this. They didn't even contact him and tell him they were doing this.
Yeah, they don't need to. Like that's
legally they don't.
No, I mean, well, it's so weird how people there's people I've seen that there's weird Star Wars fans that just want or think the old expanded universe should be the real universe. It's like, did you ever read any of those books? Because they were terrible. Mm-hmm. But they're like, well, the only reason they do all the expanded universe stuff and change it now is so they don't have to pay royalties to the guys who wrote the they don't have to pay royalties to jack shit. They're like, it's Lucas. That was work for hire. They own that shit wholesale. Oh, yeah. And if they were worried about paying royalties, all that stuff would not still be in print. Yeah. I guarantee you. Yeah. They don't have to tell Ron Gilbert anything, and believe me, they won't. Yeah. So that shouldn't surprise anyone. Yeah. So it's not cool, but it's like, welcome to the fucking game, basically.
This DLC is coming in 3 installments. The first installment launches on July 20th.
And now to butter Disney have to get Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah. And then there'll be 2 more drops after that. So they're dragging this out a good bit. But it's a great match. So I think it's good. This will get me back into Sea of Thieves, Matt. They've done all these updates, all these little drops, all these little content. I've not gone back to it since I played the OG. I will probably go back to play this. It also feels like it's more story-oriented and plot-oriented, and there's actually real goals to accomplish.
Or that's what they want you to think.
Yeah, because that's true. A lot of times they'll put out trailers to fool you basically into thinking it's something that it's not. But we'll see.
I just feel like I'm too far behind.
Yeah, with Sea of Thieves.
I feel like I missed too much of it. I don't know. People.
You may be right. You go in there now, people won't even want to play with us.
Mm-hmm. Like, oh, look at that guy in the basic pants.
He's still wearing the pants from the launch.
That's funny. He's got launch pants. Get him.
Yeah. So again, the first installment of that comes on July 20th. Next up, as Matt alluded to, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. I'm surprised they're already creating a brand new IP, brand new SKU for this franchise. It feels like they aren't done with the DLC from the last one still.
Yeah, there's some stuff in here I think that they needed to move to the new tech for.
Is this new tech?
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought they were using the same tech as before. I mean, this is
I'm sure
stunning, by the way.
It's an evolution of it, but like all this stuff with all the people and all this extra, yeah, that wasn't there before. And that's a good I mean, look, I love airplanes and flight and all that stuff. I just am not good at Flight Simulator because A, it's very complicated.
It is,
and
yeah.
B, I don't do well when there's no objectives.
Me either.
Like, I'm not a very good self-starter in terms of gameplay stuff. Like, if you this one, though, has all these things you can do.
Yeah, it's basically focused on employment in the aviation
industry.
industry.
The search and rescue, like, that stuff looks really cool.
Yeah, all of it does. Like, you can just be a skydive pilot.
I'm still going to suck at it, but at least I'll know what I was trying to do when I failed, right?
I'll be honest with you, I didn't even really, realize how many jobs there are in aviation until I watched this trailer. I was like, damn, man, there are a lot of jobs flying stuff. I agree with you. I think this is a huge boon for this franchise, giving actual objectives and things to accomplish in the game instead of, just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Because whatever I want is flying a plane and then crashing it.
Yeah, and there've always been, little objective, little mini scenarios you can play. But, this...
The weather rolls in.
Yeah, this looks like it's much more robust in terms of trying to, give you that kind of simulation.
Yep. And as the name of the game would imply, it's coming in 2024. So not long to wait for that one. Next up, the other Like a Dragon game that we were talking about earlier. This is called Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. This is one of the more memorable trailers from the week for sure.
Yep.
It doesn't really tell you much about what the game is going to be.
Well, it does seem like he's in Hawaii.
Yes.
Because everyone's speaking English.
Based upon interviews and stuff that have come out, it's a kind of like a buddy cop game.
Mm-hmm.
But there's two protagonists that you play as. They haven't really said whether you can flip back and forth between them at will or whatever, but it's the two buddies are together. It is the next in the mainline Yakuza franchise, Like a Dragon franchise. It is a turn-based RPG. But otherwise, this is just a funny trailer. It doesn't really give up much information about the... And this is one of the oldest tricks in the book.
Oh, yeah.
This has been done in so many TV commercials.
But it's also It's a very well done example of it.
It is, yeah. They do a really good job.
And it's very on point for the series.
Yeah. Notice the red bands of the chair.
Yeah. Took a long time for someone to notice that.
Yeah.
Took a long time for him to... I'm going to tell you this much. I think I'd noticed that about myself before he did.
What?
That I was completely naked on the beach.
He's just standing there.
At some point, you're like, there are parts of me that can feel sun that do not normally feel sun.
I mean, I'll say this. I did New Year's in Miami for Y2K. And we all did pass out on the beach. And if you're drunk enough, you'd be surprised at how much you can surprise yourself.
I don't think he's drunk. I think some shit has just happened.
Something else has happened, yeah. But anyway, we don't have a ton of information about this game, as far as...
No, but it looks cool, like a fish out of water Yakuza. I mean, look, the one thing that's been the constant refrain of criticism for the Yakuza games has been we're kind of tired of Kamurocho.
Yeah.
We've been in this little part of the city forever and branching out more. It looks like Kiryu's going somewhere different in The Man Who Erased His Name. And he's going to be in, it looks like Hawaii or some tropical island and dealing with another culture because everybody seems to speak English there.
Right.
So Yakuza characters dealing with Americans, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And the Like a Dragon turn-based RPG series is already tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
Ha-ha.
Oh, they've always been...
Yeah.
Yeah, they've always had...
Even the Yakuza games are a little bit like that.
All the side stuff is weird, funny stuff for the most part, and then the main story tends to be basically like a J-drama.
Right.
More than, usually centered around real estate fraud, weirdly enough.
Which is such a weird thing to choose. It's so weird.
I can't wait to see who's buying beachfront property illegally in this one.
Nobody. I just saw a thing the other day, all the people who live in Hawaii that have grown up there their whole lives are getting forced out.
Yeah,
because they can't afford it.
There's no more room.
And they're all moving to Las Vegas. Las Vegas has become little Hawaii.
Yeah.
Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know why I brought that up.
Because it's the closest place you can afford on the mainland.
Yeah.
Because California.
You got to go past California.
Well, that and you don't want to live in Fresno. So you just go
Vegas
past.
is better.
You get out of the Central Valley. And then
you might as well live in Vegas. That's the way I see it. Yep.
Right. And they're used to living in a place where everything has to be brought in from outside. So.
Yep. And then to top things off for Xbox, a couple Persona games that were leaked by Atlus's
own Instagram
account.
Whoops.
Yeah, the first one is Persona 5 Tactica, which is a strategy RPG set in the Persona 5 universe. Again, another Persona 5 spin-off game. This leaked 3 days before the Xbox showcase, something like that. So we had this up on Sifted several days before this actually was in the press conference. Any interest in this, Matt?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Go with yourself.
There's so many strategy RPGs anymore.
Yeah, I don't.
Like,
I didn't even finish the Mario Rabbids 2
I didn't
thing,
either.
and I thought that was great.
And that's probably about as good as they get, and
Yeah.
I didn't finish it either. I also did not finish the last Fire Emblem either. I didn't make it to the end.
No, I didn't finish that either.
I played a lot of it. I probably spent 40 hours with it, but I did not finish it. So, yeah, tactics games, that happens to me a lot. I get pretty far into them, and I just stall and get distracted by something else, and I never come back to them. And then the other Persona game is the Persona 3 remake. They're calling it Reload. As Matt alluded to earlier and was upset about, there's a lot of content that came to this game in later versions that is not going to make the cut for this version, which is very odd. But probably a way for them to get it done more easily, more quickly, more cheaply. I mean, the visuals look like Persona 5 to me. Looks like they brought them up to Persona 5 level, basically. Where would you place Persona 3 in the pantheon of Persona games?
I mean, it's probably the least of the three, of this format, of the go-to-school scheduling
I'd agree.
format, dungeon crawlers.
But for whatever reason, there's a lot of fans of this.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first one that did that. 1 and 2 are different games. They're more traditional JRPG stuff. This kind of brought in a more, grounded sort of, not grounded, but like you identified more with the day-to-day existence of this character, and the characters around. It was more about the relationships, and it really emphasized that in a way that was there in the previous ones, but wasn't the focus.
Yeah.
I think 4 is the best of them. Certainly Golden is the best version of 4, which is the best Persona,
I agree.
of the modern Persona format.
It's my favorite too. Yeah.
But I think this one's greatly improved by the addition of the Fez content and the PSP upgrades and additions and the ability to choose the female protagonist.
The stuff that's not in this.
It's all not in this, and it's just like I thought this was going to be like a definitive edition, and it absolutely is not.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not going to play this.
Yep. And so that's a wrap on the Xbox showcase. Amazing, right? I mean, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, what's your letter grade for that?
I'm going to give that an A.
I'll give it A-. And the only reason it's an A- is because the worst part about it is that I realized that we have to wait another year for Xbox to finally have a real lineup of software. I really was hoping that this would be like, okay, we got like 4 games coming for the last 6 months of 2023, and then next year the deluge. But no, we pretty much got to wait till the end of 2023, and then 2024 is going to be an amazing year on Xbox. Finally. Like, I really struggle to see how PlayStation or Nintendo, although, if Nintendo launches new hardware or something, all bets are off. But I struggle to see how PlayStation in particular is going, based upon what we just saw at its showcase, is going to be able to hang with the releases on Xbox for next year. And it's been a long time since I've said anything like that about Xbox and PlayStation. So finally, we're getting what we've been waiting for it feels like for 2 years now, since they started buying up all these studios. All these games that they've been working on are finally going to be released in 2024. If you look at it this year, I don't think the showcase was all that great, but I do appreciate that almost everything was all of it was at least in engine, and a lot of it was all just gameplay chopped together instead of like CG
it all feels in reach.
Right. Yeah. It feels real and tangible now.
Yeah.
Which a lot of this stuff didn't before. No State of Decay. No Perfect Dark.
No Perfect Dark. No Gears 6.
No Gears 6. No Banjo. I someday that'll be right on that one.
No Halo.
No Halo.
I didn't miss any of that.
Nah, I would have liked to see Perfect Dark.
I think Perfect Dark is having some problems.
Well, it has 3 studios working on it, so yeah, it's definitely having problems, but I still would like to see it. So, no Indiana Jones, Erebus Jones brings up.
Yeah.
And that's a game that was announced quite a while ago. But you know what? We didn't see Wolverine in the PlayStation thing either, so...
Well, Wolverine's not going to be mentioned for a while.
Till after Spidey's out and they've made their money
done.
and blah, blah, blah. So, overall, excellent job by Xbox. I also feel like, my complaints with the presentation aside, which did really get annoying, even though it was only like an hour long, the done, world premiere.
No, and Erebus Jones just bring up Phil's Hexen shirt.
Yeah,
which
he says means nothing.
which means it means something.
Right. So Hexen's probably gonna be.
There'll be some Hexen thing down the line, yeah.
Which is probably a mistake. Like, I don't think most people care about Hexen.
It's just weird how much Hexen has come up lately. Like I mentioned it.
No one cared about Hexen when it was actually a thing.
Not at all.
It's really weird.
And I even confuse it with Heretic sometimes, because there were two Magic Quake era shooter. Like I don't know. Like it feels like an end. It feels like an end. A dead end. Yeah. But like, who knows?
Overall, excellent job by Microsoft, though. Finally, they got some guns that they can pull out and be like, "Look at these!" Like,
it just takes longer these days.
It really does. It's like Mr. Booty said. It's like it's a 4 to 6 year cycle now, and that's just kind of the way it is because these games are huge and we demand it. Like if it doesn't take 4 to 6 years, we say the game is crap, and so you're getting 4 to 6 years. That's basically what's happening here. We've turned into such jerks that we make fun of anything that isn't just like crispy clean, and so the developers are listening and they're like, okay, we're not going to release anything that isn't crispy clean, and it's going to take us 4 years to do it. So we are suffering from our own criticisms right now, I think. So
well, I mean,
and we're guilty of it too. As
how
the
come
press.
how come they didn't show Spider-Man 2 until now? Because you weirdos fucking lost their shit about the puddles for years,
you
and then they still complain about the water, and like it just looked fine. It looked fine.
This is why we don't deserve nice things, people. So anyway, there you go. That's the Xbox showcase. Now it's time to move on to talk about Ubisoft. And I'll be honest with you, Matt, I had very low hopes for this.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of
I was like, this is going to be a disaster.
I'm like, just like, what in the world are they going to show?
And then it starts with the Just Dance 2024 thing on stage, and I'm like...
We can't disappoint Pactor.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, though. It kind of felt good to see that, because it took me back to when E3 was a thing, and that's how UB was. It's like they would do this embarrassing presentation at the beginning of their press conference every year, and they did it. And thankfully, it lasted like 90 seconds total. I think they figured out that people are like, we don't really want to watch this, but Just Dance still makes them a lot of money, so they got to do it. And then they went into the press conference proper, and things got much better very, very quickly because of one game. And again, I'm really on the fence here. I don't know if this is the game of the show, but Star Wars Outlaws gameplay, holy moly. So it starts, and as I mentioned a little bit earlier, like I thought the beginning of this demo, I was like, oh no, it's awful. It's embarrassing. There's all these weird moments happening that don't make sense. And then she leaves. And that's when it just all starts clicking into place. She leaves that room and gets on a bike and goes to this outpost out in the middle of nowhere, goes into the outpost, does a bunch of fun stuff, gets in her ship, gets in the ship, flies out in this, and it's kind of like the Starfield moment, Matt. When I'm watching that 45-minute thing and it starts dawning on me what the game actually is, this gameplay did the same thing. The longer it went, the more my mouth hung open, and the more I was like, oh, hot damn. This is the Star Wars game we've all been waiting our entire lives for, Matt.
Well,
I mean,
almost.
Since Grand Theft Auto 3 launched, at least.
If she was a Jedi, it would be. But other than that, yes.
I mean, and not only that, this looks like a damn good one. Like, we're going to talk about another Ubisoft game here in a minute that I was nowhere near impressed with.
No, they've clearly put the best people on this one.
There are 10 teams working on this game, Matt. 10 Ubisoft studios are pitching in on this game.
Isn't that how all of their games?
Not all of them.
I mean, you watch those Assassin's Creed Valhalla credits, and there's at least 10 studios.
Valhalla, yeah. I mean, they
know this thing has to deliver.
They have one big game that they always put all the this is it.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh,
this is probably one of the reasons Mirage is smaller.
It probably is. Yeah.
Like, you got to get this right, and you got to show them that they were right to move away from EA.
Yeah.
And it looks like they did. I mean, this game looks great.
It looks amazing, man. My one concern, though, watching this, the gunplay looks a little janky.
Yeah, it's blasters. Clumsy,
I mean,
not as clumsy or random as a blaster.
You can make a good Star Wars shooter that feels good.
I think it will be. This looks fun. It looks fine. Some of the things that look less more janky are her specialized ammo, like switching it to overcharge and stuff. Yeah.
Even this though looks a little, I don't know.
I mean, it looks on target for
Star Wars
for blaster fire. I mean, it was like that's blaster fire. Blasters are not super accurate. Like that's you gotta kind of balance that.
That
So we'll
seems
see.
bizarre that they're not accurate. They should be the most accurate things in the world.
It's one of the first things they say in the first Star Wars.
I know. It's funny though. It doesn't make sense. They should be accurate as AF. Like, it's the
There's
future.
a lot of things about Star Wars that don't make sense.
It's true, yeah. Yeah. And right here, this is the moment where it starts to get good. Like, that whole scene in there, I was like, I don't know, man. I'm kind of disappointed.
Actually, that exact moment there is the most disappointing thing in the trailer to me. Not because of what happens after, but like because she like runs out and hooks the thing and then just sort of hangs
Right,
there.
instead of like
slowly lowers
No, I
down.
hear you.
I'm like, oh, I thought she was gonna swing out and do something cool.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
oh no, we're just gonna slowly.
From
lower
this
to the
point
ground.
forward, though, this game is freaking ace. Like, this is
Yeah.
like what I've dreamed about since I was a child of playing in a video game. Getting the full thrust of an Assassin's Creed game, but a Star Wars game, I never thought I'd see it. Like, I am so glad that Lucas has decided to parcel out this IP to other publishers and studios.
Yeah, because EA was never gonna make this.
Yeah. I mean, they tried like
They
twice.
tried and they just weren't able to.
And they couldn't do it.
The
They
Frostbite engine ain't gonna pull this off.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And I'll be honest, like, if you look at this, there's drawing here.
Oh yeah.
There's LOD
Well, I mean,
issues.
it's definitely real time.
Yeah,
Like, it's definitely
exactly.
gameplay.
I mean, you know it's actually being played, but still, it's being in this believable world. Like, see, look
Yeah.
at ship flying over top of you there. Like,
Yeah, all that stuff's great. All the, like I said, all the on the ground day to day elements of what it's like to live in this galaxy. Anytime you do that, you got my attention.
you pull up into this little settlement town,
And there's a little,
like,
and coming on the heels of Andor, like this is
Uh-huh.
exactly what you need.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
exactly what people want to see, I think.
yeah. I mean, so we're gonna do an abbreviated version of our Best of E3 awards in next week's show. We're not gonna go through like all 20 categories. We'll probably do like 10 categories or whatever.
Look, there's just a fucking monster sleeping outside the thing.
I
It's
know.
great.
I mean,
it's great.
the more you start
The
paying
amount of
attention to this-
clutter, the amount of just like
Yeah.
lived in element, like they nail it. They
Yeah.
just nail it.
Yeah.
Every single shot in this is great.
And this is also where I managed to fall in love with her as a character as well.
No, she's cool. I like her.
Yep. She's got a rough edge. She takes no shit.
But she's also like soft to the little axolotl cat,
Yep.
and like you know, clearly like you know, friends with the droid. You know, like
She's a woman in a man's world dominating. I love that.
and I
So-
like that she's got a little bit of like, you look at like that nose has been broken a couple times. Like she's
Yeah.
got some lived in to her as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know?
They said some of the tenets of the game are heists, contracts, managing relationships. And then obviously the big tenet is the open world and the wilds of space, because after all this stuff happens, she gets in trouble.
Yeah.
Gets in her damn ship and flies off into space, and it's just like a whole other world in space.
Well, it has to be there.
It's insane,
You gotta
man.
do it.
It's insane. Our dream is finally coming true. Finally. Why did it take? When was Grand Theft Auto 3's release date? What year was that?
It was
2002,
2003.
2001?
2002, somewhere in there. Yeah.
We've waited over 20 years for this game. Why?
Because the tech
Because
wasn't there.
Lucas couldn't do it,
Because the tech wasn't there.
but it was. I mean, we've been playing.
I mean, it
open
would
world
have looked like
games.
shit. I mean, but
Still, though, we could have been playing open world Star Wars games all along. We never have had one. Finally, we're getting what we've been asking for.
I mean, I'm glad we got it when it was good and not one of these half-assed, you know, Me Too things that LucasArts used to put out.
Yeah, because that's what it would have ended up
Yeah,
being.
of course it would.
Absolutely. I want to jump forward here because we can't talk, because this is a pretty long demo. We can't talk about it the whole time. I wanted to jump to the space stuff so you guys can see it if you haven't seen it already. So basically what happens is she gets in an argument with some people over a deal that they made.
Imperials come after.
Yeah, and the Imperials come after her. She runs, gets in her ship, and takes off into space to run away. And she literally gets in her ship on the ground, flies off of the ground, and it just transitions naturally into space. I know we kind of take that for granted now. That's not something that a lot of games
Yeah.
do still.
I mean, I do think that's a little. I think it's a slightly not impressive transition. Like the fade.
do you think that fogging that they
the
use?
fogging and the fade in of space is a little not great.
So
to
do you
me.
think the space is not there and it's loading?
Oh,
quote, unquote, space
100%.
in?
100%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a load screen, no question.
Which is crazy that in No Man's Sky they can do it, but they can't do it here.
Well, No Man's Sky doesn't look like this.
That's true.
You know,
That's
like there's a
true.
lot more happening here. I love that there's Orabesh on the HUD. That they use the Orabesh stuff as much as they do, like the shield and the hull strength. Just use the Star Wars language. They don't use English.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's duplicated in English and Orabesh. That's really cool. You can figure out you can load the hyperdrive up while you're trying to dodge laser fire. Like that's, this is all, it's all there. Like you go jump out to another thing. I hope there's a lot of, I'm sure there won't be 1,000 planets, but I hope there's like 12, a bunch of places to go. It looks great. Looks great.
It really does, man. I'm really excited for this. Tiny Blip in History says, I used to dislike Star Wars media without Jedi in it. Like, I honestly don't care that much.
I do. The Jedi are the hook. To me, the Force stuff is the hook. And you want my bet on this?
Yeah.
The cliffhanger / post-credits, quote-unquote, scene of this game will be that she discovers she's Force sensitive.
Oh.
And the next game will be her learning to be a Jedi.
Force powers. It's possible. The other thing, too, about this is because it's set between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, it is ripe for awesome moments where you brush elbows with all the characters and the moments from the original trilogy.
Oh, yeah, you could run up into Luke or Leia, Lando, Chewie, Jabba the Hutt, Boba Fett's out there. All of it. All the Empire stuff's out there.
Yep.
Maybe you'll do something with Dash Rendar. Who knows?
This little montage at the end here is freaking awesome too. This is what really starts showing you some of the breadth of the game.
Yeah, really good variety of the different environments and different planets. And again, a lot of stuff about like what being on the ground and in these locations
Look at that
where people
right there.
live.
That shot, all these shots,
all that stuff is
all these
great.
shots are amazing. The characters, like all of it, it just looks freaking awesome. Normal stormtroopers, TIE fighters, it's got it all. I am really, really excited for that game. Again, coming in 2024, we don't know when. When do you think?
No, I'm
Q4.
My guess would be end of the year. Like you say that for
that's
holiday.
Ubi's big game for the holidays. Yeah.
I don't see how you don't.
Is there anything significant with the Star Wars movies or TV shows that it could coincide with? Maybe.
Not of that era. You've got a bunch of Star Wars stuff coming to Disney Plus this year and next. You got Skeleton Crew and Ahsoka's in August, and Andor Season 2 is in there. So, everything just got delayed today.
Right,
because
of
the Writers Guild strike and all that. And, I think the Star Wars is
when are they going to pay these writers? Pay the effing writers!
Well, as long as the Directors Guild doesn't cave on them. That's what happened last time, and they're trying it this time. But the problem is the Directors Guild wants the same thing the Writers Guild wants this time, which is transparency on the streaming numbers and revenues. Yeah. And that's the one thing the studios don't want to give up because they don't want to admit that it didn't work.
Or they don't want to admit that they're ripping off the writers and the directors.
Well, the problem is not really that so much as
their stuff isn't doing very well.
But the problem is that the revenue model for streaming is not on the level of what the revenue model for broadcast and theatrical ever was. You will never make the amount of money that those methods did, and they don't know how to put that genie back in the bottle. And they're basically, at a certain point, the studios are hitting a point where they're going to have to start admitting that basically film and television entertainment are not going to be the money makers they used to be because of this streaming thing they unleashed.
Yeah.
It's like the esports thing. They jumped in on this thing without knowing where the revenue stream was, and there is no revenue stream really, but because the consumers like this version so much because it's so convenient, you can't go back.
No, there's no going back.
So the problem is not that they don't
Netflix
want.
Netflix is charging people for.
And
extra
the problem is that
now.
they don't. But it's working.
Yeah.
But the problem is they don't. Not that they don't want to like tell the writers.
I'm saying going back on what you've been doing all along. That was why I brought that up.
But like
that worked.
The problem is not that they don't want to admit that to the writers and all that. They don't. But the main thing is if you admit that to the Writers Guild and the Directors Guild and SAG. You also have to. That means that it's public information. Now the shareholders know that you've been. And already there's a lawsuit from the shareholders against Disney about misrepresenting Disney Plus as how much money it was going to make in the original pitches, which is also being brought by the shareholders. And of course, a lot of the shareholders of things like Disney are also shareholders of things like Warner Brothers and these other studios. And the issue there is that if Disney Plus was to fold, Disney's fine. 70% of Disney's revenue comes from the theme parks. Like theatrical,
it's hard to believe.
Everyone's like, "Oh my god!" They lost 4 million. First off, they lost 4 million subscribers on Disney Plus because they lost the cricket broadcasting streaming rights
from
in India.
Yeah.
They didn't lose 4 million people because people didn't like that.
Andor
Star Wars went woke or whatever the hell. They gained 20 million subscribers worldwide, but they lost that because of that. But they don't really care because most of the revenue of that company comes from the theme parks, and the theme parks never slow down no matter what. They've raised the prices on those tickets for years, and everyone still shows up.
My sister's coming to visit here in 2 weeks, And she called me last night, and she's like, I don't think we can afford to go to Disney.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
She's like, me and my son are coming out there, and like, you know, everybody when they come to LA, you go to Disney, and she's like, I'm really wondering if like we can afford to go. And I'm like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Those prices are legit.
Crazy.
And I'm like, and then you get there, and everything else there is like crazy
Already
expensive
ridiculous,
too, just to eat or whatever. And I'm like, you know, you probably want to get a hotel down there. You don't want to keep driving back and forth if you're going to be down there for 2 days. I'm like, that hotel's going to be an arm and a leg.
Hundreds.
Yeah, so you're right. Yep, it's interesting. But
So,
anyway,
yeah, it's but again, like those other companies though, like Warner Brothers and them, they cannot. They put all their eggs in that streaming thing.
Yeah.
If that all comes falling down, you're gonna have shareholders burning the fucking front doors down in those places. Like
Yep.
it's like the problem is that the writers want what their fair share is, and they're correct to want that. But the studios think if they admit all this stuff, it all comes. The
It's
whole
a
house of cards comes down.
Yeah. Okay.
So it'll be fascinating to see.
When do you think it's going to end?
Months.
It's already been
If the
a couple
DGA, because the contract for SAG and the DGA, SAG's already voted in for striking, pretty much. They've already approved it. DGA is being courted right now by the studios, and in the 2007-2008 strike, the DGA they never joined the strike. They got what they wanted from the studios, and it lowered the bargaining power of SAG and the Writers Guild, and basically they had to come to the table. If the DGA does not do that this time, it will last until, because if the directors walk out, that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't make anything at that point.
How are they making anything now?
They barely are. And a bunch of stuff they aren't.
Not writing, you can't do shit.
But they moved Deadpool 3 up, so apparently most of that movie seems to be improv, turns out.
Yeah.
So it's
It's crazy.
I'm
surprised.
I think it could last till next year if no one
Wow.
budges. Because the thing is, like, after the directors walk
The
out,
streaming services will die.
yeah,
They will die.
but that might be better than admitting to the shareholders that this
to
is a
them, it
dead
might be
end.
better.
Yeah,
And they can just burn it down and start it over with something that actually is viable.
yeah. It's like that thing with the Millennium Tower in San Francisco where it's like, did you see that? It's leaning 29 inches to the west now.
That is scary.
Millennium Tower is like one of the, I think, the tallest building in San Francisco, and it's built on basically landfill. It was always a terrible idea, and it's leaning. It leans like over 2 feet to the west now.
Yeah.
And there's people worried about structural integrity. There are people who like live up. These are very high end condominiums and stuff. People wake up in the mornings and their windows are shattered because the building moved overnight and it broke the glass.
Scary.
And there's all this stuff about
I would move out of there ASAP.
well, because there's all the talk is like, well, we have to fix it, or you're gonna at a certain. Basically, the solution is to tear it down and admit it's a loss and take the loss, but no one wants to do that because it's a loss of millions and millions. So there's a chance that they'll just leave it there, let it collapse, let people be hurt and killed, and take the insurance money.
Jeez. Let's check in on chat. See what people are saying about Xbox here.
Never underestimate the high-end corporate willingness to let it all burn down rather than admit you've lost money.
No. I want to see what people are saying about Star Wars before we move on from it. All I want is a Star Wars game without lightsabers. I just want Star Wars Galaxies back from Justin Horman.
That's you're welcome to that.
Sleeping Turtle 3, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome.
For God's sake, let the Wookiee dance.
I'm with Matt. I need to be a Jedi to make it the best Star Wars game ever. From ChiroDoc23. I can understand that perspective.
Yeah, I respect the people. It's like, thank God there's no lightsabers. And I mean, I think there will be lightsabers. And he's like, you won't be holding one.
Yeah.
But like, yeah,
I get it.
But again, like, it wouldn't be this game because that would be a little too similar to Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
My open world Jedi game would take place in like the Old Republic. It would not KOTOR, but it would take place like maybe in the 10 years between episode 1 and episode 2, where the Jedi Order's up and functioning. The Clone Wars haven't happened yet, but you're kind of going out in the universe doing Jedi stuff.
Okay.
You know?
That makes sense.
Being kind of the sheriff and the diplomat through things and kind of choosing how you handle that.
All right. Next up, one of my most disappointing games from this entire week. I hinted at it a little bit earlier. It is Assassin's Creed Mirage. They showed this trailer, which is a story trailer, which basically introduces you to the main character and some of the settings in the game. Again. And then they showed a gameplay trailer that actually showed gameplay. And
turns out it's Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, it is, but with more jank. I
think you need to go back and play those games again.
No. My point is that like we're how many years away from the first Assassin's Creed, and this new reboot of Assassin's Creed looks just as janky as the first game was.
Well, it didn't look as janky as the first game, but it looks as janky as like Syndicate
Yeah.
or like Black Flag.
I do not think this game looks very good.
I think it looks like Assassin's Creed. And with
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't deny that,
with all the good and bad that implies.
There's just moments like some of the combat, like you can tell that a B team worked on this game. That this is not the typical team that works on Assassin's Creed. It's not the Assassin's Creed Valhalla team that is making this game. They have pitched it all along as simpler, a throwback. I think that might have been out of necessity with the people that they had to work on this game.
Maybe. I think it was also out of necessity in the sense that you had to... It was time to bring it back to something.
Yeah.
And if they're going to do like kind of smaller games on the side while the Odyssey team is going to work on the bigger ones, that tracks, more or less.
This whole scene is awkward and weird and poorly voice acted. Like, they have the one...
Not her. She's good.
Her voice is so distinctive, and she's great in The Boys and a couple other things I've seen her in. I don't think she matches that character at all.
I mean, I guess she smoked a lot as a kid.
I mean, the character needs to be like 80 years old or something for it to match. Like,
I mean, she's always sounded like that, though.
Yeah, I know. I just think this game...
I mean, she does look about 45 or so. Like,
I don't know, man. I think this game is headed... And I have this on my fantasy team. At this point, if it gets like a 7.5 or higher, I'm going to be pleasantly surprised. Mm-hmm. My expectations for this game went way down after watching this gameplay demo.
This is about what I thought it would be.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I knew it wasn't being made by the A-Team, and I knew that would make a difference, but...
Man, I'll be honest with you. I don't think you remember the original Assassin's Creed games very well.
I do.
Then.
I went back and played the first one like 4 years ago or something.
I just played Black Flag and Rogue this year, and like, this is right on target for what...
Well, you realize those games are like 10 or 12 years old, Matt. Like... But it should be way better than that.
Not necessarily.
We just played Odyssey. We just played Valhalla.
I mean, Odyssey and Valhalla are buggy as fuck too. Like I'm
not talking about bugs. I'm just talking about just general lack of polish and just ugh.
I mean, Valhalla's got a lack of polish to it.
Not like this game.
It's a different beast, but I don't see a lot of difference there. Odyssey is maybe the most polished Assassin's Creed game of all time.
I'd agree with that.
But much like Empire Strikes Back being the good one, I think it's important to remember that makes it the weird one.
Yeah.
You know, like that's...
I did like a couple things that it showed in this. Like, I like how you just can't use the eagle vision at will.
Yeah, I like that there's counters they have to that, and you gotta go deal with that. And yeah, there's some... I mean, but again...
There's some impromptu combat stuff that... The idea of it is cool.
I like that he actually stands with them and is just like, don't give me away. Like, it's not just like the old ones where you stand in and then nobody seems to care that some random fucking sweaty dude has decided to stand in a group with them. It's like,
yeah, like this combat stuff to me. Like,
I mean, this has all been done 100 times.
And the animations just don't look very good.
They look like the same animations. They look
from like 14 years ago.
No, several of these animations are right out of Valhalla.
Yeah,
like.
There's a one scene where he like spins around and throws the knife, and it just looks... I don't know, man.
I mean, I think this is a B-lister Assassin's Creed game. This is right. I mean, this is essentially the equivalent now of what those side-scrollers were back in the day.
Yeah.
That's kind of the filler game, and I don't have a problem with that. I think it looks fine. I don't have any doubt that I will enjoy it. It will be fine. It will not be in my Game of the Year conversation or anything, but it is Assassin's Creed, and it is a more traditional take on Assassin's Creed, and that's cool. I absolutely love that we're going to actually see an old, like, you know, an archaic city, like, recreated with detail. Like, I missed the dense urban area, the historical tourism aspect. I mean, there was that in the ancient trilogy, as they say, but it was more of an open land thing, whereas like you never had a city like this in the last 3 games, and I love that that's back. Baghdad's a great choice for it because it's so unique and in a beautiful place, especially at this time in history.
But the other thing too is that like the one scene where they're all talking and they're naming all these places. Like, I couldn't even understand what they were saying.
Well, yeah, I think you will when you're in the game. You can look at the map.
It sounded like the voice actors were even like, Khan.
Well, that's the correct. That's the correct
get it, but it's just, I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot about this that impressed me, I guess is what I'm getting at. So I mean,
I don't know about impressed, but it's what I thought.
This is another thing that I kind of liked. How you can just kind of queue up like multiple attacks.
I like that, but it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, it's in the canon. Like, how does that? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
I mean, he's so fast you can't see it happen. I guess I don't know.
Noxator says this was a DLC they delayed to make more of a full game. It does kind of feel that way, but I don't know. I hope I'm wrong because I love this franchise, and I hope it's like the best Assassin's Creed ever. Just in this limited slice they showed, I was just not impressed.
I think it'll hang together better than you think. Also, I think this is probably pretty old. I bet this build is about 6 months old.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be better when in place. But again, the Assassin's Creeds have always been a little sketchy in places, especially when they went to new direction. I can't believe he didn't kill that guy. I would have absolutely killed that guy every time.
Well, it looked like he had like a proximity mine there.
Yeah, he knocked him down, but he wasn't dead. I'm just saying, I would have killed him.
No, I'm just saying he threw that mine down before he jumped down to the ground. It sat there for a long time. Then the guy ran at him and it detonated.
Yeah.
How did you?
It's a landmine.
I'm just wondering with the time period how that.
There's no time period. It's a proximity mine.
What?
It's no time length.
No, I'm saying like the time, like the
in
era? History. Yeah.
I mean, people have figured out ways to do weird little
or
things
just
like
come
that.
up with corny excuses for how it works.
Yeah. Also, they have like first civilization tech. They can. You know,
right. That's true. Yep. So anyway, that's Assassin's Creed Mirage.
You know how often you'd have to fucking oil that blade?
That's true. That's Assassin's Creed Mirage is coming out on October 12th. Another October game. Mm-hmm. Save your money for October, people. There's a lot of stuff coming. Next up, the new Avatar game. And I would just say, Matt, I just watched Avatar, finally, the new Avatar movie 2 days ago. I watched it on HBO Max. I was surprised to find it was on there. I was also surprised to find out that it looks and sounds better than anything else on HBO Max.
Yeah, well, they got to do something.
I think they made 4K free for this movie in particular.
I bet James Cameron insisted on that.
It also streams with Dolby Atmos, which is not typical for most stuff on HBO Max.
Well, now it's just Max.
They hooked him up. Yeah, now it's just Max.
Well, they still had that contract in place. I mean, it's also on Disney Plus, I think.
Oh, it is?
But, like, yeah, James Cameron has demands about how you present his work.
It wasn't amazing, but it was 3 hours plus long, and I was exhausted when I started watching it, and I did not fall asleep. So that, to me, is kind of impressive, but not a great movie.
No, that whole middle part is pretty...
Yeah.
Didn't really need to be 3 hours long.
And then I realized, too, the final battle starts with an hour left in the movie. The final battle is an hour long.
Well, also remember that originally that was one... So this 2 and 3 were one movie. They were originally 2, and he split it into 2 movies. So that's one of the reasons this one sort of feels like it doesn't super go anywhere.
Yeah.
And like you can even see where they kind of rewrote it to have a climax for this because there's a thing where he's like, I'll kill your whole family, and he's like, let's get it done then. Yeah. Because in the original, I'm sure they left it was like the end of Act 2. It was like the low point and everything. Yeah. But this is like, okay, let's just fucking do it. And so that's the end of that.
Yeah.
Except not because there's no outcome for that. Like nothing of note happens there.
Well, the game, Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, is coming out on December 7th. So it's actually coming out this year.
Yep.
Although that's cutting it real close. We'll see if it actually makes it this year or not. It again, kind of like the movie, I don't know that it has like a real plot where things happen.
Well, I think it's going to be... you seem to be playing this character who was indoctrinated by the humans, and then they left at the end of the first movie, and now you're woken up out of hypersleep.
After like 15 years or whatever.
Yeah, as they're returning to Pandora. So I imagine you'll basically be doing guerrilla warfare against the returning humans.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it is.
It's Far Cry Pandora.
I mean, it feels just like the movie.
It's Far Cry Pandora.
Yeah.
That's all
I mean, the plot of it feels exactly like the movie. Although it feels like the human presence is
well, it's
way
focusing
bigger.
on like the first 5 minutes of the movie where they are doing like the hit and runs on human stuff, and then like because then they leave and go to the sea people or whatever. But this is basically the war of the humans returning to Pandora.
Yeah.
And a different part of Pandora than we've seen with Jake Sully and his family.
Is this the western side of Pandora or something?
I mean, it's just another part of the planet.
I think they said specifically, though, which area it was. But anyway.
They talk, I mean, it's clearly not a super different environment, and they talk about, like, oh, this clan is in the west, and further west there's this and that and that. But like, that's all new. That's all new stuff. So you're going to run into the same... I don't know if she's even from the same, like, tribe as Neytiri and the characters we see near the world. Maybe probably a completely different area.
Well, that was one thing I definitely learned from the movie. I didn't even realize that there were different species of Na'vi.
Yeah, well, that is new from this.
Oh, I didn't. I just thought maybe the canon you knew that already. I didn't. So
I mean, I don't pay a lot of attention to the expanded Avatar universe, but yeah, the fact that there are different sort of subspecies of Na'vi is new to Avatar 2.
I didn't realize that. I thought people who were fans knew that already.
No, that was a new information.
Revelation.
And certainly the fact that they have different tails and hands and everything.
And all that. Yeah.
And then you will meet the Ash people, the Ash clan in the next one. I mean, it's basically Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah. But you're right. This is basically Far Cry with
Far Cry in Avatar.
An Avatar paint job on it. Yeah, which is cool.
It's fine.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
That's not a problem, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually kind of excited for this. Coming around December time, you have about a month and a half to kind of get through all those big October games.
Yeah, I mean, look, the world is the most interesting part of Avatar, so you're going to give me a chance to kind of poke around and explore that? Cool, I'm into that.
Yeah.
Like, that's nice. The
creatures are amazing.
Looks nice.
Yeah.
Looks cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like setting my world on fire or anything, but like it's definitely seems like my preferred way of interacting with Pandora.
I'd rather play this than another Far Cry.
Yeah, sure.
I'll say that. The last couple Far Cries have kind of left me cold. The last one especially. The last one is the least I have played a Far Cry in maybe ever.
I like 6 more than 5 overall,
really?
But I will admit,
finished 5.
I finished 5, but just because I had nothing else to do.
Did you finish 6?
I did not finish 6.
I got
like
get close.
2/3 through 6. But I did
time.
find 6 more. Part of the reason I finished 5 is because I kept thinking it might get better, and it just never did. But one thing I will about 6, I never finished it just because I just played so much Far Cry. I got done with it. I did finish New Dawn. I like New Dawn. But 6, the problem with 6 for me was that it just never went anywhere interesting. It was just this. I don't feel like it had different enough biomes. I don't feel like I had different enough characters to pull me through. I do appreciate that they pulled back on the constant drug trippy aspect of it, because Far Cry 5 went too far in that direction, to the point of basically almost excusing the villains.
Yeah, it did.
For being like, oh, they're just all on drugs.
Yeah, no, that's not
I'm
okay.
Like, no,
they're still bad people.
They blew the planet up at the end of that game. Like, that's not cool.
I hear you. Yeah. I do wonder, too, with it coming out in December, are people going to care about this?
I think a certain contingent will apparently always care about Avatar, because I don't know where that second movie made $2 billion.
It really is kind of hard to believe. Well, part of it is some of the tickets were like $50 because you're getting like the 4D experience with like the smoke and the misters and all that crap.
The inflated ticket prices helped, and that's always something you got to keep in mind. Like, I was expecting Spider-Verse to still win the weekend against Transformers this past weekend. Transformers did win by about 5 million, but you got to remember that Transformers had taken over all the IMAX theaters, and literally the number of tickets sold was the same between the two movies, but Transformers made more money because IMAX tickets cost more.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
So there is the fact that like normally a ticket, and this is how much stuff costs in LA, but like normally a ticket at like the Chinese theater costs $17, and the tickets for Avatar at the Chinese theater was $32.
Yep, that's how it was.
Yeah, they made a lot of money, but they made a lot of it on the back of the fact that the tickets were double the price they usually are.
Now this game, I will say, you can tell it's been made by people who love Avatar, because it has every important element of Avatar in it. Like every cool thing that they do in the films is in this game. Everything cool thing that the Na'vi can do, they can do it in this game.
Well, I'm sure James Cameron was personally involved.
And he showed up for his little statement after this gameplay was shown and blah, blah, blah. But
I will say, I know some people that did work on Avatar 2, and they all say James Cameron is involved on every level, and he will talk to the people that normally directors would not talk, the little people, quote unquote. He will talk to like associate producers and about individual effects artists and say like, what do you think about this? And like he wants ideas, he wants feedback, he wants to tell them he's very involved in every level, and I'm sure he's involved in every level on this game too.
Yeah,
it's his world, it's his baby. He is very protective of it.
Yep, we gotta get moving. We're running out of time. So after Avatar, they showed the new Prince of Persia game. And this time they showed a big chunk of gameplay, so we got to see how the game actually plays out. Did it change your perspective on it at all, getting to see a chunk of the gameplay and the gameplay loop?
I mean, it still looks cool.
Yeah, it's pretty much what I expected. Obviously, when they cut together trailers, it's just action wall to wall. You get a little bit more of the downtime, a little bit more of the hack and slash here. But I was no less impressed by it. I'm excited to play this game. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're a fan of 2D side-scrolling games, you should be excited too, because it's very rare that 2D side-scrolling games get this kind of a budget and this time of kind of a team working on them. So again, this is a game that I recommend following on Sifted. Just go to its game page, click the gear, and click follow. Yeah, and again, this is coming out on the 18th of January, so just as the year turns over. Another brand new game that Ubisoft showed, The Crew Motorfest. No one asked for, although this is actually teased before this week. Like, there was a teaser trailer out there for it. We knew it was coming, but now we know details on it. It's basically Ubisoft's attempt at Forza Horizon.
Yeah, very Horizon.
It's set in Hawaii. A very diverse biodome for...
They very wisely ditched the boats and the planes.
Well, I don't know if they did, actually. I read a preview where they said that they only let them play the cars.
Oh, yeah? Because there wasn't a hint of,
no, you're right.
in any of this.
You would think in Hawaii, too. Like, that'd be a great place to have boats.
But that's always been the weakest part of...
No, you're right.
It was the weakest part of it, too, was the fact that none of it quite all felt right.
I do think this game is going to have the other stuff, though.
Well...
That's probably a mistake. You're right. But I think it's going to have it. At least they even show the ATVs here, at least. But I don't know. Good luck competing with Forza Horizon. Although this is multi-platform, that helps.
It helps, but also, like, God, the Crew sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I should like it. And the Crew 2, I was pretty excited about. It's never felt good.
I don't like the feeling of the driving.
No, never felt good to play.
If you can't nail that, then the rest doesn't matter to me.
And maybe they will on this one. Who knows?
Possible.
But the track record does not indicate such.
I'll say this though: this is the best looking Crew I've seen so far.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this has me intrigued more than any Crew game before this. So that's something. And Ubisoft, to its credit, it also does not abandon the Crew.
No, and taking cues from Horizon's a good idea, because one of the problems of the Crew is it just sort of degenerated into like a menu fest.
Yep.
Yeah. At a certain point, you almost hit paralysis of choice, where you're just like, I don't know what weird little dot to pick, so I'm just going to play something else. At a certain point, if you can make this a more coherent, more natural, sort of organic feel, that would probably be for the best. Because and they tried, like, especially the first one where you could drive all over the United States, but like I just don't feel like it gave you enough to do.
I never felt like I was driving all over the United States.
And you felt like you were too locked in. It was all weird and abbreviated. So I think picking a specific location like Horizon does, and picking an area where you can kind of really let it unfold is a better idea. But again, they got to nail the feel of these cars, and they have not managed to do that in the other games. So.
I agree. Game's coming soon, September 14th for pretty much all platforms. So if you're someone who doesn't have an Xbox, you haven't been able to play
I'm
Forza
sorry.
Horizon.
I'm sorry. You think I'm going to stop playing Starfield to play this?
Yeah, I know.
Really? Okay, sure. Why not?
Some might. But if you have been kind of jealous of the Forza Horizon franchise, you haven't been able to play it because you don't have an Xbox, this is probably another game worth following just to see if it ultimately turns out. Next up, first-person Assassin's Creed, exclusively for the MetaQuest. It is Assassin's Creed Nexus.
Or also called Assassin's Creed clearly CG footage.
Well, they label it as CG, by the way. They don't try to fool you.
But it's not even...
Yeah, they call it a CGI trailer. But this game has been in development for forever.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to come out in fall 2023, and they still won't show us real gameplay footage of it. That's bad.
Little concerning.
It does star several of the most popular protagonists from the history of the franchise. So it's like an all-star cast of players that you play as, but you're playing in first person. So to someone's point earlier
I'm sorry,
in chat,
Ezio used to be better looking than that.
Yeah.
Like that they just don't know what Ezio looks like anymore. Like,
but again, to someone's point earlier, does it matter when you can't see the character?
I guess not, but he's in cutscenes all the time, and Ezio has changed appearance almost in every game.
You're right. I don't know why.
Partly because it was different teams, and none of the teams had to answer to each other for how the character was designed.
But still, just make him look the same. He's the same person.
No, apparently not.
It's so weird. So anyway, that is only for Quest. I don't know why they signed an exclusive deal with Meta for that when you got PlayStation VR 2 and all these other HMDs, but they did. It's coming out in the fall. And then a couple smaller things that they showed. They showed The Division Resurgence, which is the mobile version of The Division. However, it is also a CGI trailer. This isn't the actual game. They released this, though, to announce that you can now sign up for a closed beta. So if you want to give it a go, you can go to the official website.
Do that to yourself. You can do that.
You can go to the official website. You can sign up for the beta. Again, it's The Division Resurgence. And then one of the cooler DLC things from the entire week is for a game that I can't even believe that still exists, Roller Champions Cross Jet Set Radio. Another match made in heaven. They probably should have had this as their first DLC instead of DLC after the game is basically already dead. I can't believe there are people still playing this, Matt.
I was surprised it's still up.
I couldn't believe it either. But this is a perfect fit. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff that they're doing from Jet Set Radio. And as you can see, there's a whole stage for it. lots of cosmetics and things like that.
Nothing brings a game back to life like a tie-in with an IP that most people have never
heard of. Yeah, but for us, it's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm not going to play it, but it's nice. It's always nice to know that Jet Set Radio isn't forgotten.
That's true. Yeah, for us at least. And then...
Put Jet Set Radio Future on modern Xbox, you cowards.
Yeah.
I know that there's some problem there, but just remake it.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of smaller stuff that Ubisoft had. There's registrations open right now for Assassin's Creed Jade, which is the mobile version of Assassin's Creed, which is like a legit Assassin's Creed game, by the way. Mm-hmm. X-Defiant is having an open beta session. We already talked about it on the show. I got in the closed beta, and I talked about it on GameFace already. The open session for everybody is June 21st to 23rd. There is a Captain Laserhawk Blood Dragon remix anime is coming to Netflix. That's coming later this year. Skull and Bones is still a thing. It's still coming.
Skull and Bones has a song now.
Yeah, a weird, goofy song that they showed a performance of. There's a closed beta for that coming August 25th to the 28th, so it's still alive. Mario plus Rabbids has getting Rayman DLC, and that's launching this year. And then, as we talked about earlier, they did a Just Dance thing for Just Dance 24. And somehow Just Dance is in the Olympics, Matt.
Yeah, the esports category. Yeah.
What?
They got to try something.
What is going on?
The Olympics want the kids to watch. That's what's going on.
And then Vincent brings up their skateboarding and Riders Republic. And
Riders Republic is obscenely cheap on Steam right now.
Go buy it. It's
like $5.
Amazing extreme. If you like extreme sports games, go buy it. It's amazing. Like skateboarding's tough. Like to have skateboarding as like an add-on makes me a little nervous.
Yeah, you wonder how good that's going to turn out.
But regardless, the base game of Riders Republic is awesome. Go buy it if you can. Okay, time to grade Ubisoft. I'll just say I was pleasantly surprised by Ubisoft. Mm-hmm. I thought it was going to be abysmal. I thought it was way better than I expected. What letter grade would you give it?
I'd probably give it a B. That would be much lower if Outlaws wasn't in it.
Yep.
But I'd go with B.
Yep, me too. Solid B, flat B. Outlaws, again, maybe my game of the show.
I mean, nothing touches Starfield for me, but...
it's a tough battle between those two games.
I am more sure that Outlaws will function properly than Starfield, but Starfield is a dream game of all time for me. Yeah. Outlaws is just like, ooh, that's really cool.
Well, Outlaws is a dream game for me, too, so it's going to be a tough decision between those two games for game of the show for me.
Well, luckily, you got plenty of time to worry about Outlaws.
That's true, yeah. But the 10-minute gameplay, like, that's big to have it in your press conference, so I'm going to give Ubisoft a B as well. So that's 2 Bs from Matt and I for Ubisoft's Forward 2023. And it was good to see a crowd there and kind of the old E3 vibe back a little bit.
That was just all Ubisoft employees, but
no, there wasn't. There was people there like normal. There's journalists and stuff there.
Yeah, but that's a very that's a very staged thing.
Yeah.
So
that's because we've been there. We know how it works. Next up, we're going to talk very briefly about Capcom because that's about all it deserves. Capcom's, I don't even know why it bothered to do a showcase, Matt. It literally had nothing. It started off with its 40th anniversary, which is crazy. Capcom is now 40 years old as of the 11th of June. And they're doing this crazy stuff on their website. If you go to Capcom.com, they've built this like virtual city. I don't know if it's in Flash or whatever, but it's in a browser.
Captopolis or
something like that. You can go and play like Street Fighter 2
Captopia
and a bunch of other games for free on there. So they're celebrating it live on their website. But then we got to the games, and there's really only 2 games worth discussing. One of them is Pragmata, the game we've been waiting on forever. We have no idea what the hell it is. They showed a gameplay teaser that actually kind of showed gameplay for the first time.
Yeah, it seems just like a third-person shooter kicker kind of thing.
Weird.
Yeah.
It's still very bizarre. This game is very, very weird.
How long has this thing been? When they first showed it, it's like
3 years ago. Yeah, it's been a while. So we finally get some kind of an idea of how it plays, and then at the end, there's a message saying, you know what, this game may never be done. Basically, is what it says.
Delay.
Yeah, they're like, we're delaying it again, and this time we're not even going to bother giving you a release date. You're just going to have to wait until we finish the game. Some people have been comparing this to Vanquish based upon some of the gameplay that they show in this. I really don't know how to describe it still at this point. Like, just all these little shots is just like, what? Like, what is going on? I have no idea. But the bottom line is, none of us are going to be playing this game for probably, my guess, is a couple more years still.
No.
Or maybe ever. Maybe we never play it.
Oh, yeah, it would not, like I said, it would not surprise me if this is another Deep Down.
Yeah. And then the only other game that Capcom showed that's worth discussing, because they talked about Resident Evil 4 VR, they talked about Street Fighter 6, stuff that's already out, and they talked about Exoprimal for an excruciatingly long period of time, Matt. Like, Capcom hasn't figured out yet that no one gives a damn about
I am
this game.
so uninterested in Exoprimal that I was getting mad watching
Me
that.
too.
Like, I was like,
angry.
stop putting this game in my eyes. Like, I don't want this in my eyes anymore.
I know. But they focus on it for, like, almost the whole thing.
There's nothing like, it's mech suits and dinosaurs and time. Like, why don't I care about any of this? But I really don't. It just looks dumb.
You can also tell already that, like, they're going to try to, like, skeeve people with the exosuits.
Oh, for
it's
sure.
It's going to be, like, this big DLC.
It looked like a mobile game at times.
It really does. Yeah.
Like in terms of how the upgrade stuff worked. It was very annoying.
So you may be wondering what the other game was worth mentioning, and it's only barely worth mentioning, and that is the Ace Attorney collection. Mm-hmm. It has 3 Ace Attorney games. It has Ace Attorney Apollo Justice. It has Ace Attorney Phoenix Wright Dual Destinies. And it has Ace Attorney Phoenix Wright Spirit of Justice, all compiled into one package. It's coming out in early 2024 for pretty much all platforms. And, you know, I've played these games already. Yeah. I'm only just bringing them up because they're good games and some people may have not played them.
Good games is a nice overhaul into HD.
Yeah.
It's nice to see them rescued from old handhelds and, you know, playable on modern stuff.
Yep.
Eat your hamburgers, Apollo.
But otherwise, Capcom was abysmal. Like, why did they even bother?
I don't know. I mean, isn't that been the theme of this Capcom E3 stuff for like 5 years now?
Because we would normally be like sitting around waiting for the Capcom, and then they do it, and we'd be like, why did we stay around for this? Mm-hmm. You're right. It's a recurring theme for sure. But Capcom, letter grade for Capcom?
D-. I don't know.
Oh, it's an F. It's got to be an F.
I don't know. I don't
think it can get it worse.
Maybe Dragon's Dogma 2 existing and gets him a little bit of a bump.
If they had shown like legitimate, like a bunch of new footage for Dragon's Dogma 2, sure. But basically the guy shows up and gives like 2 factoids about it and jets. And I'm like, wait a minute. I just thought it was terrible. It's an F from me for Capcom. It was one of the worst E3 press conferences I've ever seen. And we've seen a lot of Capcom E3 press conferences already. So yeah, that was an F for me. Really disappointed. Especially with Capcom, it's on a roll right now. You know, it's just making money hand over fist. Yeah, but they just didn't have anything ready to show.
It's just not at the right time. Like Street Fighter is already out. There's nothing to talk about.
Like I shot pack. So I did.
Should have given those 2 things to Keeley and just called it a day.
Right. Exactly. I drove back from shooting Pachter yesterday, like madman coming up the 405 trying to get back before Capcom, and then I sit there and I'm like, oh my god, why did I do that? Why did I even bother?
Yeah, you should have known.
I mean, I kind of knew.
At this point, I mean, what else could it have been?
Well, they start showing Pragmata, and I'm like, oh god, I'm so glad that I made it back. And then they drop the hammer. So anyway, that's a big fat F from me.
Just kidding.
Yep. And then for our final segment, to recap not E3 2023, I'm going to go through a handful of indie games that really caught my eye throughout the course of curating literally hundreds and hundreds of indie games and brand new trailers and debuts. And again, I will say, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I was really disappointed in the indie games at not E3 this year. But I did find a handful that I really liked. The first one is a game called Jusant. This game will give some people nightmares. It is a vertical climbing game. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much all it is, believe it or not. But the some of the shots in this trailer, if you have an aversion to height, like that one, this game could make some people pretty queasy.
I mean, I don't like heights, but it's a video game. But you put that in VR, I might react to it.
Right. Well, some people who just don't like heights, even this stuff like really is triggering for them. So,
well, sometimes I will say there are certain games I can't even like Jedi Survivor on like some of the hierarchy things. If he turns wrong because he gets such momentum, sometimes if he turns wrong and I think he's going to fall off, I get vertigo just thinking about where he is versus what I'd do if I were where he is. So yeah, maybe once I'm playing it might be different.
So it's a climbing game.
It looks very
you climb to these different civilizations, and then the game takes more of an action adventure type feel to it. But the ultimate goal in almost all of this is, like you can see, you get to one flat, you look up, that's the next peak that I need to conquer. So it's going to be a game for specific types of people, I think.
No, I really like that idea. So like this looks very good to me.
Very unique and very cool. I like the art style as well. It is coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series.
And of course, it's Don't Nod, so whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
Whatever you want me to do.
I've grown to trust
I'll play
Don't Nod.
them. Same with the other one they showed. So.
Yeah, they showed another great game too. And this is coming Q4 this year to, again, PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. Next game. I talked about old Grand Theft Auto a little bit earlier today. Here's a game called The Precinct that is really, old school Grand Theft Auto, meaning like the first 2 Grand Theft Auto games, it is a top-down Grand Theft Auto-like open world anti-crime simulator. Except this time you're playing the good guys instead of the bad guys.
Well,
And there's something striking about this game, Matt. Oh, right, good guys, bad guys. Who knows? It depends on the city. Depends on the cop. But this game really caught my eye. I'm like, why hasn't any other studio done this? Gone back to the original style of those open world GTA games, those first games, and done it with modern tech.
well, I think in part because they sucked. But like, I think the interesting thing here is that the tilting of the camera angle solves it.
Yeah.
Basically, like that's the
Because
problem.
the lack of being able to see was a big problem.
It was a viewpoint problem.
It kicks it down just enough so that you can see to drive and you're not running into stuff. I think this game looks hot, man.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but it's an interesting solution to that idea.
Yeah. I mean, it's a solution to not having to spend $200 million to make a legit...
It actually makes me think of The Ascent a little bit.
The Ascent.
The Ascent was the dungeon crawler, sort of three-quarters cyberpunk twin stick shooter thing, kind of almost.
I know what you're talking about.
It's like that. Like, I kind of like that approach to like making a big budget game that like if it would be a bigger budget and more of a big production if you lowered the camera angle to the point of view of the character. But if you put it way up here, you can kind of do more than you might. You can basically if everything
take liberties.
If everything plays out like the big finale in Heat.
Yeah,
you can get away with a lot more, right? Like it's so that's kind of what this looks like to me. It looks like Heat in some ways.
Yep, this is called The Precinct. It is coming to PC, PS5, Xbox Series X. It's also supposed to launch before the end of the year. It's supposed to come in the fourth quarter. Next up, a game that at first I thought was Hades 2, and I was like, oh my god, Hades 2 is going to be awesome, but it's not. Instead, it's a game called 33 Immortals.
We already saw Hades 2.
Right, but I thought that what we've seen of Hades 2 so far is nothing, though.
No, but I
thought this was a big reveal for Hades 2.
Well, I mean, this is a minor thing, but Hades 2 has way smoother animation than that.
It does, yeah. But I'm talking the first, 30 frames that I saw of this game. I was like, oh, it's Hades 2. And then I was like...
Also, I heard when they said that this is the Spiritfarer guys before they introduced it. So I
missed that. Again, I'm curating while this stuff is happening, so I missed stuff. This is a 33-player co-op game. Mm-hmm. Where you play together with 32 other players. I have never played a game like that. Have you?
Oh, like
16.
I mean, that's what a raid is.
That Starship Troopers shooter had 16.
Right. I mean, that's what a raid is in an MMO.
And that's what this is, actually. It's basically a raid game.
Yeah, they even say
it's
that.
It's a 2D raid game.
It's like raid, whatever. The thing pops up. Yeah. No, thank you.
No, you're not interested in this at all?
Not at all. I mean, I love Spiritfarer, but I don't care about this at all. It's cool. Like,
I think it's really cool.
But no, I will not probably play this.
No?
I have no interest in dealing with 32 other dipshits to try to get through a game.
Well, the truth of the matter is, if you're playing with that many other players, they're not all going to be your friends. It's almost impossible for that to happen. If you could get 32 of your real friends together for a gameplay session, can we be friends?
Yeah, we would not do that.
Introduce me to your crew. I'd like to know them. So anyway... that 33 Immortals is coming to just Xbox Series X, but it's not until 2024. So it is an Xbox exclusive for now. We'll see if that stands up. And then the craziest game that I saw at all of E3 week is a game called The Spirit of the Samurai. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
This is the weirdest game I have ever seen. You play as a samurai, you play as a wolf, you play as a cat, and you play as that weird blue creature. Mm-hmm. All in the context of samurai.
And it's kind of stop motion-y.
Yes. This game is so bizarre. Like, this part looks normal. It's like, side-scrolling, like, hack and slash, samurai. In a minute, it starts to show, like, playing as the other characters, and there's this duality world. Like, now you're playing as this character looks like Amumu from League of Legends, if any of you guys play that. It looks like him. And now you're playing as a cat, you're playing in stealth, and there's this insane... Look at this game! It's just bonkers. Look at this scene! What just happened right there?
His soul transferred to the little blue thing.
What? What is going on?
It makes me wonder if you were going to spend much time playing that samurai at all.
Right. Look at this. It's just great. Look at the little cat there. This game looks insane. Again, of all the games that I saw this week, that was the craziest, most bizarre of them all. It is coming to TC, PS5, Xbox Series S, also coming before the end of 23. Have you noticed Xbox One is now gone? That is one of the things that even for Xbox.
Well, yeah, it's
there's
time.
still PS4 stuff this week, but there's no Xbox One.
Well, the Crew is old
it is Xbox
too.
One,
yeah.
But that's like the only game left for Xbox One. Is now officially been sent out to pasture. And then the final game that really caught my eye, final indie game that caught my eye, is a game called Resistor. And this is also kind of a dream game that I've had like in the back of my head for a long time. Like I grew up as a kid as a huge Speed Racer fan, and I still feel like they have never made a good Speed Racer game. Like
have they ever made a Speed Racer game?
They made one, I think, based on the movie. I think there was like a movie tie-in game.
I don't remember that.
I thought there was. Maybe not.
You might be right. I don't remember.
But
that movie was great, though.
It was great. Way underrated. I don't understand
hugely
why.
Underrated.
Really underrated. I love Speed Racer. And this, to me, is a game that they should have made a long time ago with the Speed Racer IP. It is a story-driven driving game. And I don't understand why this doesn't happen more often, where you don't make a driving game where it's not about, like, having these insane physics or these realistic cars. Like, the driving is passable and fun, but there's also a story there that's actually something that you care about, and there's like RPG elements.
It's really just like Full Throttle and this.
There's like nothing. Why?
Sort of the Mad Max game.
Yeah, a little bit.
The car combat in that was pretty solid.
Little bit.
But like, yeah, it's a very unusual idea. Certainly, it didn't have this sort of. I mean, the Speed Racer, like, pedigree is definitely here. Like you see that in every frame of this, really.
Yeah. I don't know why they haven't made a Speed Racer game, but this is the closest thing to it. I think this game looks awesome. I can't wait. It is coming.
I mean, they haven't made a Speed Racer game because of that movie failing.
Yeah.
Is what happened.
And most people don't even know what Speed Racer is.
No, but even like, they don't even really do that much. I mean, I want to say there was a PS2 version that maybe didn't come here. It was just Mach Go 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 in Japan. But it's just not a very, that's from the 60s. It's not a very current franchise.
Yeah, it's not.
But you can see just even the bouncing around. There's
all the
huge
shots.
Speed Racer.
It's all straight out of Speed Racer.
Yeah,
absolutely. This game is coming to PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, and Switch. Also coming before the end of the year. So there you go. Those are my indie games that really caught my eye throughout the not E3 week. Was there any indie games that you kind of...
Yeah, I mean, I would add in the other Don't Nod game.
What was that again?
I can't... Banishers?
Banishers, yeah. You're right. That was another good one. Yep. But generally, I thought the show in general was pretty weak for indie games. Like, there wasn't a lot of stuff that really stood out. It was just a lot of also-rans, has-beens. Here's another cooperative action RPG.
I can't remember. I mean, I'll be honest, like, a lot of the time, like, when they get so many, and some, especially like the Summer Games stuff, like, it's just like it's like a fire hose, and I just forget about most of them. Like, I think you covered everything there that stood out to me, I think, except Banishers, and I can't really think of anything that was missing. I guess that tower thing people were talking about.
Oh, Towerverse?
Tower, whatever that was. Like that. Tower Versus or Tower...
but that looked just like another cooperative, like, side-scrolling hack and slash to me.
When I talk about, like, that game didn't look amazing. There was another... what was it? It was like the girl in the dungeon stuff, and like it looked kind of like Sable. It kind of had like a Jean Mobius look to it.
I don't remember.
And there was like a shot where she touches like a monolith thing, goes poof, like out like that, like to the side.
I don't remember that one.
I can't remember what it was called. It was like something Dungeons or something Forbidden. I can't remember what it was called, but I think it was.
Try to remember it for next week.
I think it was in the Summer Games thing, but I thought that looked cool.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was, or something about ruins, or I don't know.
If I search ruins in our database, there's probably 50 games with ruins.
Dungeons of Hinterberg. That's what it was.
That game was right on the borderline. It almost made the cut, but didn't quite. Yep. So you actually did pluck the other two games that were like right on the edge for me. So there you go. That's not E3 2023. Unfortunately, we do not have time for Q&A or name that game. I did have an awesome name that game today, but we'll just shove it to next week's show. Next week's show is going to be awesome too. We'll do our best of not E3 awards, smaller than usual. We'll still do them. And then I've been playing a ton of games behind the scenes here that we haven't had the time to talk about, and those are all going to be in next week's episode as well. Yeah. What a crazy week. I'm glad it's over, man. I've worked my ass off this week. I can't even tell you how many hours I put in. Just the pre-production for this show, there was 60 clips in this show. just the pre-production for this show took me 4 days of busting ass. And I'm glad it's over. So another not E3 in the books, another June game season in the books, whatever the hell you want to call it. We made it through again, and thanks to all you guys for all your support. Thanks to all our patrons. If you're watching this show on YouTube, you're listening to it on podcast services, head to patreon.com/sifted. We literally just saved you like 36 hours of checking out E3 stuff in a 3-hour show. If you appreciate that, we'd appreciate some reciprocation. Again, at patreon.com/sifted. If you can't do that, at the very least, please visit our sponsor's website. Go to creamls.com/sifted, SIFTD, and make sure you use that URL going forward when you go there so that they can keep track of our users heading over there and checking stuff out. There's tons of stuff on the website. There's drink recipes. There's the history of the alcohol. There's all kinds of awesome stuff. There's store locators there where you can figure out where to buy it locally or how to buy it online. Again, go to creamls.com/sifted, SIFTD. And with that, I think that's it. How do you feel, Matt? Quick, letter grade for overall the E3 week.
B+.
B flat for me. Still missing some of that sparkle. I got it from the Xbox press conference. For the rest of the stuff, I really didn't. But I'm glad I got just that little bit. Took me back in time to when E3 was in its heyday, just for a moment. And it gave me that little kick in my step that I needed to push through when I was really tired. It was really amazing psychologically how stuff like that works. So thanks to everybody in our chat. Thanks to everybody who subscribed with Twitch Prime today. Thanks for everybody who hung out with us. I hope you guys enjoyed E3, both on the site and both the stuff that we've done here on GameFace. We love you guys a ton. We'll see you next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.